lap 3 here. Unfortunately, you missed a bit of a slow lap 1, a bit of a, I think just didn't quite hook it through turn 1 of lap 1 and had to crack the throttle to avoid the wall. It was a 39.809. Lap 2 back up to pace of 39.645, and lap 3 even faster, a 39.642. So this is the white flag on John Hayden's qualifying run. Currently looking maybe a touch quicker than what Christina Ryan was setting. But of course, this lap 4 is also tricky. And that first lap could be costly, more than 2/10 slower. And coming across the stripe to finish lap number 4, that is a 39.676. And that is behind Christina Ryan by about 4/10, a 39.693 for John Hayden.
So the effects of a restarted session already being shown to us here tonight, with John Hagen, your previous pole sitter from the previous session, not being able to get the run together that he wanted this time by, and Christina Ryan is now your provisional pole sitter as championship contender. Emily Howe makes her way out onto the circuit. Of course, Emily Howe trailing in the championship at the moment by only 3 points from Austin Farr. One of the drivers that we're very much expecting to get into the top 9 shootout here tonight for the Arrowhead 500 qualifying. Just taking the time to build that speed up now. Plenty of grip on that rubbered-in line that you can see is just that darker patch of tarmac, just trying to tip it through the corners as gently as possible. Plenty of stock car experience from Emily Howe coming into play here. Where at tracks like this, you'd be trying to save as much tire as possible, but coming off the wall at turn 1, perhaps a little bit early, just going to nearly hit the wall on the outside of 1. Coming out of the throttle a touch there. Track conditions a lot trickier than what they were in the previous session. 2 of our drivers tripping up on that so far. So not a fantastic lap 1 for Emily Howe so far, but at the end of the day, it's a 4-lap average, carrying good speed through turn 3, getting the line nice through turn 4 as well, and using plenty of track on exit. Perhaps not as close to the wall as she may have liked to be, but the speed looks good. 274 kilometers an hour across the line, but only a 39.578 as the first lap from
just a couple
Emily
of
Howe.
hundredths slower than Christina Ryan there. But just because it looks sketchy doesn't mean it's not quick. Sometimes you've got to be on that ragged edge, especially in temps like this, to have the car hook up. And I think these increased temps are really going to show who has that car control, who can push it right to the limit here. Especially as these tires are they're gonna overheat on 4 laps with a track temp of currently 112 Fahrenheit. I've noticed that's Fahrenheit, so I can see miles an hour. Lap 2 are 39.577, 1,000 faster than lap 1. That is a little bit of consistency as Emily warms into this run here.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about then, is that consistency is where it's going to be, where it's won or lost here tonight. But Emily Howe making use of all of that stock car experience to play with the, well, not even play with the tools, because that's not stock car. Saving those tires as best she can, getting as much out of the Firestone rubber as is possible, but making use of the unique tools in the Champ Car machinery. Those revs just dropping a touch through turn 4 as we've seen so far, but adjusting the anti-roll bar, adjusting the weight jacker to try and keep the car as balanced as possible. With how aggressive the setup is in qualifying, that right rear tire burns off really, really quickly. And you're going to need some of that jacker. She's found some more speed. In all of that, she's found some more speed. Wow, that is extremely unusual.
This could be an incredible run if she can keep it clean through lap 4 here. Because that's lap 3 faster than lap 2, faster than lap 1. Here she comes through turn 4 of the final lap. The run to the checker, no issues. What is it gonna be for the 83 car? Looking to put herself back in the championship. A 39.623 lap 4, which gives an average of a 39.584. Our first driver into the 227 average, and by more than 0.3 of a mile an hour.
Very impressive bit of driving there. It was a shaky start to the run for Emily Howe on that one, but one of our championship contenders getting a lap in early and putting a stamp on the qualifying session before it's even really got underway.
You got to wonder if anyone can top that lap. We've got a lot of drivers to go, but an impressive run for Emily Howe. And as such, now we're moving past the opening runners who got that second chance onto a driver who has not yet taken to the track. Enter Brandon Kreutz, number 54, getting that warm-up lap going. And right now, it looks like, of course, the one and only on the circuit for a 4-lap average. The goal is now to beat a 39.558. It looks like overall that, course, 4-lap average going to be the one to look out for of Emily Howe. 3 drivers have taken the time. Kreutz going to be the 4th and comes across the stripe quickly here. Got a line on pit road waiting, and you can see it's growing stronger and stronger. Kreutz, of course, glad to get that opportunity now. Different track conditions and a little less of that sunshine, seeing a little more cloud cover and not as bright a track, so maybe going to play into Kruz's favor here in regards to getting a good time in.
Yeah, Sorry, Olivia, go ahead.
I was going to say sketchy through turn 4 on that warm-up lap, but held on to it. And again, that's maybe how you carry speed. You've got to be on the edge of grip here to find those last couple hundreds.
The last thing you're going to be wanting to do is turn your steering wheel in the wrong direction and start scrubbing those tires on corner exit, because you're going to lose vital kilometers an hour, miles an hour, as Brandon Kreutz comes across the line to only set a 39.624. But we have seen it's possible to increase your speed over the course of the run. Emily Howe being one of the few drivers I've ever witnessed to do that. But 2 veteran stock car drivers back to back, it's going to be really interesting to see how their times compare. Brandon Kreutz not really running well so far in his champ car appearances this season, so we are going to have a really nice comparison between a midfield driver and someone right at the top competing for the championship, as Brandon Kreutz comes around to complete his 2nd flying lap for a 39.576. So there it is yet again. We're seeing an increase in pace on that 2nd lap. But by this point of the run, those tires are going to be screaming for a bit of respite. Brandon Kreutz has got to use his weight jacker and anti-roll bars to try and get that car leveled out and back to balanced as best as he can. One of the things we're not seeing from him that we have seen from the other 3 drivers that have run so far, he's not coming so far off of that wall on the outside of the circuit, a touch wide through turn 4. Massive rev drop as well, scrubbing those front tires much more than he would have wanted to do a 39.590. So close between the 2nd and 3rd lap at the moment. The tires actually holding up surprisingly well, I'd say, Olivia.
Yeah, I don't know. That cloud cover, just in turns 1 and 2, it seemed like 3 and 4 stayed under a bit of sunshine, but the track temp has dropped by about 4 Celsius, 8 Fahrenheit. And so that is going to be helping Kreutz during this run, especially in 1 and 2. Here he comes, out of turn 4, not too close to the wall, leaving it nice and comfortable here. And across the line with a 39.642, and let me type this in. That was in the wrong thing.
I mean, that lap time matched John Hagan's 3rd lap.
39.608. That will be 2nd on the board, ahead of Christina Ryan right now.
Brandon Kreutz then causing one of the biggest upsets so far to beat season 1 champion Christina Ryan to 2nd on the grid so far. But of course, that's still good enough for the shootout at the moment. But that's because we've only had 5 drivers make a run.
Carmen, you need to call Brandon in. You didn't call Brandon back in. You didn't wait to check a flag. He just keeps going. Carmen.
A little bit of a Dorian Pan situation there, where perhaps Brandon Kreutz not catching the checkered flag.
Oh no, a 20-second time penalty. That'd be an average of a 44.608 then.
Only a 44 for a 20-second time penalty.
Well, it's an average, so it's over 4 laps.
Oh. I didn't even think about that.
It looks like Sophie Connell now going to be on the move. So Cruz was on the track for a total of 6 laps and finally made it down and in. Up next, it's the number 69. Let's see what Connell can do. As right now, the number 69 heading onto the circuit. This is going to be your 5th driver to take a time tonight.
Yeah, we're expecting a little bit of something out of Sophie Connell tonight. They've been a consistent top 10 qualifier so far in the ABN Champ Car World Series in Season 5. And they've been able to run in that top 10 position quite often, but a bit of poor luck has helped them get involved in incidents more often than not. They've seldom been their fault. Their luck broke a little bit in Milwaukee to pick up the first podium of the championship, but oh, not a good first corner. Carrying a little bit too much speed on entry and scrubbing that front right tire. It's going to be interesting to see where their run can go from here. But that's not going to be what they would have wanted. Oh, and a bit of contact with the wall as well.
That might invalidate the run. I'm pretty sure that's going to invalidate lap 1, which I believe is going to nullify the run. I have to get confirmation from Carmen, but that could be Sophie Connell tonight early. And with 32 drivers, unless multiple end up invalidating, and yeah, no lap time registered. Was that the outlap or was that the first flying lap?
That was the first flying lap. Definitely.
Yeah, that's an invalid run then.
It's really unfortunate for Sophie Connell. Of course, they've got nothing to lose coming into this event, but almost everything to prove. They've really pushed the boundaries, even on those first 2 corners. But to ruin the run so early and perhaps cost yourself a shot at even making it into the show is going to be extremely disappointing for the dog box driver.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to start of Sophie's season. They had a mistake early in qualifying at Watkins Glen, which, with the format of the road qualifying we have here, meant that they couldn't set a lap, and despite having fantastic pace on the road courses, had to start from all the way back in, I believe, 25th position. Managed to charge back to 6th, but sort of a sour note for the season to start on that kind of just has continued. Can't ever seem to get both qualifying and the race in one go, but I guess Sophie's hope here is going to be that with a bad qualifying, maybe can sneak in through next Wednesday and have a good charge back through the field on race day.
Sophie Connell just on the radio there asking if they can get another lap since their first lap was validated, and Carmen Sienna is actually going to allow another lap from hold on a second, just getting some more confirmation from race control. The question being asked if the lap was invalidated. A little bit of conversation happening in driver chat between race control and Sophie Connell out there on the track. It's going to be a question of whether or not they get the lap time. They do come across the line to finish the lap, but the revs drop and Sophie begins their cooldown lap. Let's see a little bit of confirmation from Carmen to see if they're going to get that lap time or not. What do we think, folks?
The way I see it, that is the same as an invalidated single quali run, and getting confirmation from Carmen here at 0 wets. I mean, the problem is, I'd be, if it was just a simple scrape of the wall, it would be possible to count it. But iRacing does not register a lap time for us. Any wall contact invalidates the lap, and it means we can't pull an average from the other 3. Mm-hmm. And so, unfortunately, it's going to be Sophie Connell, our first driver, to fail to set a lap time here in the session.
Fortunately, they are going to have a chance in the last chance qualifier before the Arrowhead 500 next week, but that's not a not the start they would have wanted.
Yeah. Next up is going to be Lily Pelletier-Sharp in the 18 car, currently flying through turns 3 and 4 to start their 4-lap run. And where do we start with Lily? The last 2 weeks have been a roller coaster ride for the Gearcats driver.
Yeah, one of the few drivers coming out of Europe. Pelletier-Sharp managed to pick up a race win a few events ago from Gearcats teammate Lilac Zier. No team orders between those two here, and I bet it's going to be the same next week at the 500. But Pelletier-Sharp's shown us flashes of speed throughout the entire season so far, and it's been one of those drivers that you've got to keep an eye on week to week to see if she actually finds more pace than she had last week. She proved that she could be a race winner at Milwaukee, but then some old habits started to creep in that we saw at Phoenix when she wrecked out whilst racing for the win in the last couple of laps. But a decent first couple of corners for Pelletier-Sharp on this lap, and carrying plenty of speed through turns 1 and 2.
And a very fast lap 1 there. Again, the cloud cover starting to roll across the track here. It seems like a 39.435. That is more than a tenth faster than anyone else to be able to set so far. Becomes line to complete lap 2. Is there any fall off or 39.599? That's more in line with what people have been doing. So could maybe see a faster lap 1, but a bit more fall off for Lily here. We'll have to wait and see. So far, that's pretty smooth and is dropping pretty low down the line.
Yeah, a pretty aggressive driver, being pretty aggressive on this 4-lap average qualifier, using one of those drivers that's using all of the track on entry right up against that wall on entry to the corners and all the way down the straights as well. I don't think we've seen any driver that close to the wall in the short shoot so far in this qualifying session, as she exits the final corner to start her final qualifying lap.
Yeah, this will be lap number 4. That lap 3 being a 39.539.
Yeah.
This is looking like it could be provisional pole here from Lily Pelletier-Sharp.
Not a nice run through turn 2, a little bit early on turn-in, getting under that white line like a few meters earlier than she may have wanted, not quite keeping all 4 tires on that rubbered in line. You could hear the pace drop off as she had to come out of it a little bit. Getting right down to the concrete through turns 4, but not using all the track on exit. Finishing a final lap now on the run down to the line, 232 miles an hour over the line for a 39.6.
And that'll be an average of 39.536. That will be your new top time of the session.
Well, there you go. Of course, we've got that top 9 shootout to come later on tonight, but Pelletier-Sharp to the top of the standings so far. An impressive bit of driving from a very scruffy looking set of qualifying laps. I've got to say, I'm a little bit impressed by that one.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a little bit of luck and a whole lot of skill. And I think the Pelletier-Sharp on that one had a little bit of both there. That was a very smooth run that seemed to play into a favouring of the conditions that we saw again. Emily Howe set a nice clean lap, and Lily Pelletier-Sharp continuing the pattern. Here comes Martin Roberg in the 41 car, coming to start his 4-lap average. A note on Martin Roberg's car, May is Martin is running these colours for suicide prevention. Yeah, and obviously that's something that we can all support up here in the booth and around ABN. It's a lovely gesture from the 41 car, who has, of course, Martin has made a great statement already early in his Champ Car career. Being on debut at Kansas with quite frankly, a harsh setup that he managed to dance through to a P7 on debut. So pretty impressive there. Martin's first lap, 39.406. That is faster than Pelletier-Sharp's first lap. so we'll see if the pace can continue here. Putting the line nice and low through turn 2 there on lap number 2.
Yeah, Robo's been threatening pace ever since his debut. Coming out of Cheshire, Connecticut, he's got a very strong head on his shoulders from what we've seen. He was able to keep his head at a very tricky Kansas Speedway and keep it out of that turn 2 wall like so many drivers fail to do. And that's the sort of thing you need on a 4-lap average qualifying run here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway as he comes across the line to do a 39.470, lightning quick from the number 41 car in these first couple of laps. Smooth, clean, exactly what you need from a qualifying run here, and not using too much of the track though either. So underspeed in the corners, or perhaps the setup just reacting a little bit better to these conditions. He's not quite using all the track that he may have thought he needed to use, but good lines, smooth hands on the inputs, and I think we're going to see another pace setting time here, Olivia.
Potentially lap 3 finally into the 5s, but it's still a 5.46, and with 2 laps in the 4s, this is looking like it could be another top time. As I had to sneeze there, apologies. And Martin Roberg, of course, the key thing about the format here, there's 2 cut lines to worry about. First is the top 30. Most drivers will make it above that to be able to lock themselves into the 500 and not have to run on next Wednesday in final qualifying. The other one is top 9, and with this run, Martin could be feeling pretty comfortable in the top 9 there. 39.626 on lap 4, that'd be 39.512 with 227.779 miles an hour. Martin Rowe puts it at the front of the field.
Just over a 1/10 of a mile an hour faster on average than the rest of the field so far. Really, really impressive lap from the number 41 in the car there.
Rolling next is the number 16 car of Frankie Wynn, who we've seen a fair bit of during the latter part of the season. And just a Twitch shout out to Frankie's Twitch channel, where I believe he is streaming this qualifying run live. So if you want a bit of an onboard shot of how this is looking and maybe the nerves of trying to run a qualifying run at IMS, Frankie is the place to go for that. But quite a resume already. 2 podiums so far in a limited number of starts, 1 on road, 1 on oval as well, but yet to show that sort of podium pace at a speedway. But of course, if there's any place to do it, it's here.
Yeah, Frankie, we're very much benefiting from some of the chaotic races we've had, taking that podium last week in Phoenix. And one thing that I've got to shout out about Frankie is his attitude about sim racing. He genuinely has so much love for it, and it is completely infectious. Like it's the sort of energy that we hope to bring to the booth every time we do one of these broadcasts, and we hope to be able to share with you guys at home. And Frankie Wynn just completely embodies that excitement and enjoyment for sim racing. As he comes around the final corner to set his first lap time, what is it going to be as the track gets a little bit colder here at IMS? 39.448. That's a little bit slower than our second place driver, Pelletier Sharp, at the moment. Good enough for P3 so far to knock down one of our championship contenders, but there's still 3 laps to go here for Frankie Wynn. So let's see what he can truly do over these coming laps.
About trying to be as smooth as possible here. Nice smooth exit through 3 and 4. You're not trying as much speed through 3 and 4 because of how much you bleed off. Sorry, in 2 and 4, you bleed off a lot in 1 and 3, so you can afford to be a little bit more precise. But in 1 and 3, you're kind of on the ragged edge, and you see pushing up right against the wall. Pace drop off to a 39.563 on lap 2. That's a pretty significant loss of time, more than a 1/10 from lap 1. So could be seeing some tire issues, maybe working them a little bit too hard in the early going here.
So easy to do when you're carrying so much speed through the corners. There's little to no banking here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. One of those things that I forgot to look up before we got into the session here, but I believe it's only about 9 degrees of banking.
Pull it up real quick. and 9.2 to be precise. And
So-
of course they like to be precise.
And that is absolutely nothing in reality. And these cars are carrying, 227 miles an hour average speed over the course of a 4-lap run here, which is not as fast as one of the original record breaker road cars. I think trying to think, it was the Bugatti Veyron that did 240, but that was in a straight line. These cars are doing that average over the course of 4 laps. As Frankie then comes around to finish the 4th lap, and the 4th lap will be a 39.615, which is really consistent compared to lap 3.
That'll be 3rd place. 39.557 average slots in right between the 18 and the 83.
We've seen multiple pretty good runs in a row now, with Frankie Wynn, another rookie, making his way up there, 3rd in the order. Zach McBride up next, and back to a swing of a few veteran drivers from here on out. And McBride getting on the way. Seen some mixed results from this number 47 crew all throughout the campaign. Some more solid performances, others getting caught up in other incidents and trouble otherwise. McBride maybe looking for a reset at the most important race of the season. Of course, it won't really help all too much in fighting for the upper spots of the championship race. However, in the wall already, and McBride might have to recover from here just like that. Coming to lap 1 already with a little bit of damage perhaps.
I don't think we're allowed to reset, but because it's on lap 0, the 4 laps will still count. And so that is going to be, hopefully the car's in one piece, down onto the curbing through turn 1. I don't think that's the line you want to take. So maybe a little bit shaken by that early mistake, but coming onto the backstretch, time to breathe, just let yourself regather. You've got 14 more corners to go, and it's only going to get tougher from here as the tyres start to burn off.
Plenty of speed into turn 3 from Zach McBride there. 232 miles an hour on turn in for turn 3 there. A little bit wide at the apex of turn 4, so not a fantastic first lap. As you said, just recovering a little bit from that contact on the short shoot between 3 and 4 on the warm-up lap with a 39.619 to open the bank. Not an impressive first lap. Currently good enough for P7. He'll bump down the 81 of John Hagan, but definitely looking to improve on that average as the run goes on.
And of course, Hagan had that really awkward first lap, but then did recover to run quite a good remaining stint. So it's up to Zach McBride to step it up and carry that as well to try and overhaul the 81 car. And that is going to happen, but a 39.606 on lap 2 is improving, is starting to find the feel of the track coming into lap number 3, the halfway point of the run. And I think that McBride is going to have a pretty safe time, maybe not going to be challenging for that top 9, but he's going to be pretty safely in the field in the mid-pack.
He's been competing for top 5s all season, but hasn't really been able to execute so far. So it's either going to be a case of he's pushing to try and get into the top 9 and take part in that pole shootout, or he's just going to play it safe and make sure he makes the show next week, because the last thing you want to do is invalidate a lap time and have to run again next Wednesday.
39.666. Hopefully not a bad omen for Zach McBride here coming into lap number 4, but pretty consistent, all laps in the 6s here, so you kind of want the first lap to be lightning quick, but obviously with the mistakes that were made in that opening section of the run, just settling into a rhythm is probably what the 47 wants here. And coming through turns 3 and 4 for the final time and towards the line of Brits and the checkered flag. Nice and smooth, nice and away from the wall, and Zach McBride will, I think, punch his ticket into the 500 here with a 39.716 final lap and an average of 39.652 will slot in between Brandon Cruz and Christina Ryan.
Ruby Estes going to immediately reset at the conclusion of that run, so McBride is going to lock himself effectively in, and Ruby having some oil temp warnings and getting back in line. So I think as a result, we have just reshuffle the queue, and it's now going to be a shuffle for the number 55 High Rock Vodka Machine getting up there. Looks like a new driver to the field. Can you guys tell me a little bit more about what we're looking at right now?
So Eichler is coming in from more the stock car side of things. They're a regular in HTL, and this is really their first run in Champ Car machinery. So I say nothing to lose. I say you swing for the fences here. Obviously, try and keep it within the bounds of the tread just to lock yourself into the event, but no reason not to go for something special here in this run.
Yeah, they've got a little bit of single-seater experience, having partaken in the ABN Hyper Formula Championship, and with all that stock car experience, we've seen it come out on top a little bit so far tonight, with Emily Howe, Brandon Cruz, and Zach McBride, and John Hagan very much taking advantage of that where they can. I think it's just been able to help them keep the tires in a window to the point where they can still set all those fast laps towards the end of their run. Eichler, they're not quite using all of the track on entry to turn 3 there, and I think the revs sound like they're quite low, Olivia.
Yeah, it's just struggling for pace in general. Is only getting to about 220. I'm not sure if it's possible. I'm pretty sure with it being a qualifying session, it should be locked to the qualifying set, but this almost looks like the car is in race mode. Or maybe in just a lower fuel map for some reason.
Yeah, that would be tonight. 41.409 is not an impressive first lap for the number 55 car at all. This car doesn't sound like it's in map 1.
Yeah, I can't go on board to double check. iRacing grays that out unless you're the active driver, because it doesn't want any snooping, doesn't want any spy date shenanigans, but there's something about the pace of this car that just isn't quite right. The engine might be a bit of a dud.
So Michael then just coming around to tick off the laps of 41.552. Only 220 miles an hour on turn-in for turn 1 there.
I mean,
not
yeah,
the
yeah, it could be enough to lock in though. I think at current count we have 32 drivers. We could be seeing a couple more filtering as the session goes on. But with Connell already invalidating a lap, Eichler might get in here with this lap potentially.
I think I just heard the revs take a bit of a jump, so perhaps they've realized that they're in a... Yeah, listen to that now. The revs are going all the way up. I think they've figured out that they're in a lower fuel map, but unfortunately, it's too little too late as they come around to do their final lap of the run of 40.8, so you can see the improvement already by over half a second from the middle of the lap, carrying plenty of speed through the first 2 corners, but yeah, just not going to be a good run here due to unfortunately leaving the engine in a lower engine map.
Yeah, I'm wondering, there's 3 full power maps in this car. Map 1, 6, and 7 all give the engine a full set of fuel, but with slightly different throttle traces. Was that a brush of the wall potentially out of turn 4 as well? The lap time will count at 39.652, and that will be a 4-lap average that is set, unfortunately, 40.8. But yeah, wondering if a bit of miscommunication, not knowing which of those sort of additional fuel maps they were, maybe it was in map 5 instead of map 6.
They are a rookie to the ABN Champ Car World Series, but I'd have expected a little bit more of a heads up, perhaps from, if they are working with a team, perhaps a little bit more heads up about fuel maps. But it's so easy to lose yourself in the settings of these cars, so making a mistake like that is unfortunately not uncommon, as Tucasalia in the number 19 car takes to the track.
Yeah, I believe with even with fit setup, you have no fewer than 5 different controls you can try and fiddle with to try and get the ultimate lap time got on oval. The front roll bar, the rear roll bar, the weight jacker, and then of course you have the fuel map and the brake bias, which maybe not as applicable in this sort of situation. But a lot to keep track of as Tucker Sawyer here in the number 19 car, and quite a sleek minimalist livery here, from what I'm seeing. There's that sort of black and orange is quite striking. of course, running for his own team, Kreutz Motorsports, and across 6 starts has a best finish of 10th at the Charlotte Road Course this season. So maybe not too much shown so far, but looking to try and make something happen here at the Brickyard, and that is a very quick lap one.
Yeah, I noticed that his speed was 232 miles an hour over the start-finish line, which was an impressive turn of pace. 225 mile an hour apex through turn 2 as well, using all of the track on exit, almost slamming into that wall. So I'm just watching the speedo on the way down to not quite 234 miles an hour, but 233 will, I think, be the fastest that we've seen on entrance to turn 3 so far here today. So watching out for those speeds. I think that's where we're going to see, well, I think it's where we're going to see some of the highest speeds on corner entry here today. Another 232 miles an hour over the bricks. This is a blistering run from Sawyer so far.
There is a little bit of a technique you can use if you are brave enough on the controls. You can have one setting for the corners and one setting for the straightaways, so you can have it sort of the car, lower the rear end of the car with a weight jacker, and it won't let you turn through the corners at all, but if you can put it back into the right setting by the time you hit turn in, it just lowers the rate of the car and sort of reduces the drag, gives you a bit more top speed. And I think with some of the more experienced drivers in this car, we're going to see them maybe try and pull some tricks like that to try and optimize every 100th, every 10th of a mile an hour, because that can be the difference in a situation like this.
Final lap then for Tucker Sawyer. The last run down to turn 3. I'm still keeping my eyes on that speedometer because I want to see 234 miles an hour. But we're not going to see that on this lap here, but Sawyer's put together a brilliant run so far, using all of the track that he can right up to those barriers every single corner. Could this one be good enough for provisional pole?
39.644. That is quite a significant drop off on lap 4. And no, Martin Robert holds on by 11 thousandths of a second average, just 0.06 miles an hour. Just too much fall off in that 3 and 4 there for Tucker Sawyer to take the pole. But remember, the top 9 go into the next session for a chance to go again for that pole position. And that lap may well be good enough.
Oh, Parker Alexander. Destroyed already. Can you believe it? Coming out of pit road and catching the exit. And we've got a driver who I think might be done and done already.
Well, fortunately, we do have resets, so I'm thinking because he wasn't on a lap, he should get to reset and go again, no?
R63 is being waved in, and that might be your one and only attempt. We're saying it was one attempt, and that rule was pretty harsh applied to Sophie Connell, so could be the same here for Parker Alexander. We'll have to hope that enough other people make mistakes to get a second bite of the cherry here at the end of the session.
Yeah, it's Parker Alexander disconnected then. We will not see an appearance from Parker Alexander in the rest of this session. It will be a DNF for his run, but focus now switches to car number 63. That's going to be Selena Thompson on track to do her run.
I'm still reeling from what happened there. I was still focusing on the previous lap from Sawyer and getting the spreadsheet updated. But yeah, Selena Thompson in that mint green livery for Orlando Outlaws. I believe the team owner for that team, who have got a couple other cars in this, of course, Lee Fraser, Martin Robert as well. So already a strong showing from the team, maybe a communication between those two to try and get something going this session. Selena Thompson finished, and is also just not carrying very much speed, down to 216.
That sounds like an engine map problem once again, or is it perhaps engine temperature? Maybe that's where the turn of speed came from, as the air got through the radiators and cooled the engine down. Some of our drivers may be sitting on pit lane exit a little bit too long.
Because the queue's so long there, and these cars don't have starters, so if you shut the car off, you can't get it going again. So yeah, it could be some issues with temps here. We talked about the air temp and the track temp, but the engine temp is arguably even more important. Still down at 216. Getting up to 225 at the line. We're normally seeing about 232 at that point, and a 41.349 for lap number 2.
Yeah, those revs start to climb a little bit again now, though. So is this the engine cooling off and finally getting back into a window where it can actually produce some power?
It was end of lap 2 again. It's not. It'd be a hell of a coincidence to have both drivers suddenly find that pace at the same point on track. I think there must be some sort of threshold where the engine goes out of safety mode almost and starts firing again.
Fortunately, then it looks like there's a couple of teething issues in this format that need to be perhaps shaken out, but our drivers making the best of a bad situation and doing everything they can to try and squeeze a good qualifying run out of these cars, just unfortunately not going the way of Selena Thompson so far.
Again, up to speed now, setting a 39.703 on lap 3, so should jump ahead of the 55 of Eichler, but it might be too little too late. I'm not sure exactly how many we have in the session, but that might not be enough to make the show. Although we haven't had 2 DNFs, so maybe just enough. 39.622 for the final lap. And that will be a 40.487. It will jump the 55.
So just confirmation from the 55 car that they realized that the engine map was wrong in the middle of their run. So maybe it's not engine temps and is just a mistake from the 63 and the 55 so close together.
For it to happen to the 63 as well would be surprising, especially since I believe they're on different teams. I believe the Tribe is a privateer, so I just maybe looking for some advice from Selena, who was still lapping for some reason.
Well, as we say, mistakes do happen in motorsport, and coincidence is often just that. So it'll be interesting to get a word from Selena after her run to see exactly what happened. But I'll keep my eye on all the driver channels and see if I can get a lot of something out of her. As car 34, Bobby Blowers, takes to the track.
Bobby Blowers has been very good in qualifying so far this season, actually. So maybe this is going to be another chance to shine for the Minnesota native. But has struggled a little bit with race consistency and converting those qualifying efforts. Of course, that's a conversation for next week. But for now, it's all about the qualifying run and 227 off the exit of turn 4, and it's going to be 232 across the Brits to start lap number 1.
So Bobby Blowers then already not suffering from the same speed issues as 2 of the previous runners. So definitely in the right engine map for this run as he approaches turn 3 at some rate of knots, 233 miles an hour. It threatened to uptick into 234 there, but not quite this time. This looks like a really strong run for Bobby Blowers so far. Really, really smooth. Really clean, but let's see what his first lap time is. 39.410.
That's right with Tucker Sawyer and Martin Robert for lap 1.
Yeah, good enough to make it into the top 9 so far, but again, going to be one of those things to keep an eye on as we watch the pace drop off. We've seen it can be quite aggressive. Well, it's been quite aggressive for most of our drivers so far, even though some of them have started to go a little bit faster later on in the run, but especially when it's down at 39.4s for the first lap, I think that's when we've seen our drivers actually start to bleed off a little bit of time. 230 miles an hour on the way down to the line. 39.485. Now that is consistency on that second lap so far.
And I've noticed in turn 1, it's not just in turn 1, there's a little bit of sunshine coming out right now, so we could be starting to see the track temp raise over the next few minutes, but for now,
It is
94 Fahrenheit. If you could give me that in Celsius, please, Taylor.
34.4 Celsius. It was just under 34. Not a lap or so ago. So Bobby Blau was already having to deal with not only a different balance in the car due to the car itself, but some different track temps. So conditions again changing as he approaches turn 1.
Dent hits into the 39.5s on lap 3, but faster than Robert or Sawyer for those. A 5.21. So just has to nail this final lap and could be taking top spot on the first round qualifying board.
The track temp just continues to creep yet again. That cloud cover, 2 Freudian slips in a row. That cloud cover really starting to disappear as track temp is now above 35 degrees Celsius. And you can hear it in Blauer's car as he carries not so much speed through turn 4, and the revs drop massively.
It's still a hell of a lap forward though, and that is going to be the first 39.4 average. An average speed of 227.891 in the 34 car, again with a strong qualified effort, goes top of the charts.
These cars then started to threaten a 228 mile an hour average. Are we going to see that, and who is going to be the driver to crack that barrier?
Well, next up, it might be Ruby Estes in the 17 machine.
Estes, who had to reset due to engine temperature issues at the end of pit lane, but track conditions have changed since the first few cars went out on track. We are now above 37 degrees Celsius on track. This is going to be a really, really tricky run for the 17 car of Ruby Estes.
The Guild Girls driver has had a bit of an up and down season, struggled to find pace, but had very strong showings at Homestead and New Hampshire. I think that Homestead experience is probably what would be most applicable here. Homestead, of course, used to be a sort of miniature version of this oval back when it was first constructed, before being reconfigured into the progressively banked stadium oval that it is now. Ruby Estes looking to bank on that experience, and lap 1 will start with, again, a 232 across the stripe.
I don't expect anything magical here. Track temperature now threatening to go above 39 degrees Celsius. Already had a downshift through turn 4 from Ruby Estes to start the lap really wide through turns 1 and 2. The grip not quite there in the surface as it was earlier. Can she get anything out of this lap at all? Turns in for 3, not quite able to get down to that white line as we've seen from so many drivers so far. And no such luck through turn 4 either. Again, as those track temps build and build, the grip in the track surface just starts to creep away. That first lap time of 39.487 though. Still a decent lap time to start off and challenging for that top 9.
Yeah, it's not quite in the sort of realm of the top 5 currently, but it's well ahead of those like Emily Howe, Brandon Cruz, who ran at the very start of the session. But again, if the temps are going to keep climbing, the concern is going to be more about how the tyres fare in 5 miles time, and whether they can keep any sort of pace up, or whether you're just asking way too much to get a 39.4 out of them right now.
I think it's going to be this lap, not looking like it's going to be... Oh, it's a big drop off, 39.567 for that second lap time, as again the track temperature goes above 41 degrees Celsius. That's been a 3 degrees Celsius change over the course of this run alone. Never mind what everyone else was running in. As you can see that the tires are screaming for grip through turn 2. And she's got barely anything for turning into turn 3, but still manages to make it down to the apex this time as she shakes out the track conditions.
The forecast telling us mostly cloudy for the next few hours, and the operative word there being mostly. You're gonna have these cracks of sunshine through the cloud cover, and when you do, it's gonna play havoc for anyone trying to set a lap time. 39.615 on lap 3 here.
Oh, did you hear that rev drop?
Yeah, it's just so tricky to get any grip through the tires here after so much running.
The conditions not giving Ruby Estes what she wants in order to get a decent qualifying run here, but that's the tricky part of running a qualifying session like this, is the fact that you only get one shot to make it happen, and if you don't quite get sent out on track at the right time, you're going to end up running in track conditions that are absolutely horrendous, as Ruby Estes' run was in. 39.574 lap average, 227.4 miles an hour. That's going to be good enough for a top 6, and she's threatening to be in the shootout for now. But we shift focus now to the number 13 car of Lily Fraser as she starts her run. But the track temperature has gone up to 43.9 degrees Celsius, and it's only going to get hotter in the next few minutes, David.
It's time to get things moving with a little more of that sunshine now here at the virtual Indy, and the Brickyard coming back with a little bit more heat perhaps. Lily Fraser going to have to experience it firsthand, and after a string of cloudy runs, maybe a chance now to see what these drivers can do with the light. As it stands, the number 13 machine coming around for that out lap. We've got more than 10 times on the board now, and we're slowly but surely moving down. No major developments on pit road. Hamilton Akabuezi disconnects due to connection troubles. We have seen that from him previously this season, so hopefully that doesn't come to impact his qualifying run. Just to watch on connections. Overall, though, the focus is on Lily. One thing we've noticed is a few drivers having a little bit of a struggle to get up to the absolute top potential of their engines. Not going to be a trouble right now for Lily, all the way up into the blues if you look at the onboard on your screen. And when you get to that blue point on the digital dash, it means you're just about maxing out what you can do with the revs of the engine. 11.5 coming down the back straightaway here, and going to keep on increasing at the line for a first lap. And for Lily, that's a 39.71, so room to improve, that's for certain. And we'll see whether or not it's going to be the sunlight that really bogs down these drivers, as track conditions have shifted noticeably in the last 10 minutes.
Not getting it hooked down to the apex right now, it seems like, for the 13 car. Again, a driver with a bit of an up and down season, but marked by a very strong 4th place finish at Las Vegas. Unfortunately, that was in the dead of night under the lights, and the conditions here very much different and not favouring Lily Fraser from Massachusetts, another Orlando Outlaws driver who have again had mixed fortunes here in qualifying so far. We have Martin Roberg lining up in 2nd and Selena Thompson all the way down in 12th currently.
Consistent laps so far for Lily. Going to come across the stripe, looking on board again at about 230 miles an hour. That's a 39.865. So as it stands, Fraser going to be, tentatively speaking, on the lower half of the board with some consistent lap times, but just not up there at the upper echelon. The first lap really the telling one for all these drivers. If you get a rocket ship lap the first time around, you got a much higher chance of making it up there to the Fast 9. Right now, Fraser, when it comes to the overall quickest lap, 15th, but with average calculations coming in this time by, we'll figure out just a bit more. Lily still on track. Brennan Gregg is up next, and number 15 coming around for the final time. This should seal the deal, and Fraser should be pulling it in momentarily.
And it's 39.9 as the last lap for Lily Fraser. Just the track not giving her all the grip that she wanted, and it's going to be a very disappointing run from her as she misses out on the top 9. And it wasn't even close. There was nearly 0.2 of a second on average in it.
And the track keeps getting hotter, 114 Fahrenheit now, as rolling on the access road through turns 1 and 2 is nobody, I think.
Brendan Gregg's going to be next out on track, but he's not quite rolling yet.
Copy. I mean, I'd get going now. I'm not expecting it to get any cooler. And there we go. Brennan Red not really been much of a qualifier so far this season, but hasn't shown to need it. 2 starts in the season, but managed to come home with a podium at Las Vegas. Of course, a very chaotic race. I'm sure everyone will remember. But showing that sometimes it's not about where you start, it's about where you finish. But Brennan Red, I'm sure, looking to try and start as high on the field as possible, despite the conditions in this black and white machine. Coming across the stripe to start lap 1 and whelped speed, but only 231 across the stripe. I think you're seeing that launch out of 4 just isn't good in these temperatures. But a bit of cloud cover now through turn 1. Maybe we're starting to see the track get a little bit cooler again. Already down to 111.
Yeah, Carmen Sienna in particular going to have her eyes on Brennan Gregg, because Greg is one of the graduates in the field from the ABN Formula Atlantics at Cali Height. Of course, the other driver, the series champion when they ran in the USF 2000 last year. So he cut his teeth on some short ovals and some road courses in a junior single seater. Brennan Gregg does a 39.5 for a first lap in these temperatures, which is a very, very impressive lap. But the track temps have dropped massively, even in the last couple of minutes, by a whole almost 3 degrees Celsius. And they look like they're only going to be getting better for the 65 car. As we said, not much of a qualifier and a very uncommon appearance so far this season, but he's back for the 500 and very much looking to make a splash, and he has done so far.
Completing lap number 2, halfway point of the run, a 39.554. That's very consistent between the first 2 laps. And again, maybe the tire wear you see is being offset a bit by the cloud cover rolling in, starting to cool the track down a little bit, and I have mistyped that on the spreadsheet.
Olivia proving that she cannot do 2 things at once. This corner entry speed is still really, really high. As again, the track temperature is still dropping, but really impressed by the consistency over those 2 laps by Brennan Gregg. That's, I think, some of the closest lap times we've seen so far. Can he match it as he comes across the stripe once again? It's a 39.585.
Not bad. Really not bad.
300th drop off. He's looking good enough for a P5, I want to say, at the moment, but challenging and threatening to get inside the top 9 for the pole shootout later on this evening.
We know Pelleté Sharp is watching this lap, helpfully correcting it was the PM18 that Formula Atlantic ran. Lily might be about to lose that 4th spot to Brennan Gregg here, depending on how this 4th lap goes. A nice smooth edge out of 4, coming towards the checkered flag, being waved by Barney if you swing hard enough. 39.627. And when I type that in, not quite beaten Pelleté Sharpness, sliding just behind Ruby Estes, in fact, for P7 currently. Inside the top 9, but in sketchy territory for sure. Still much better than what we've seen in qualifying from Gregg in races past, so probably be pretty happy with a bit of a midfield start for the 500 here.
So then the next car you're going to be seeing out for their qualifying run, car number 24, Seth Wansing, 3 starts so far this season, has finished in the top 10, but isn't really used to these single-seater machines. He's a stock car champ in ARC, so it's a bit of a step away from stock car machinery to take on Indianapolis in the Dallara IR18. Some middling results though from so far this season, and out of his 3 starts has retired twice. So looking for a bit of an improvement on that, and completing a qualifying run here will be a really good way to start his Arrowhead 500 campaign.
2-time champion in the ARTS A2 Cup Series. Not the only champion in the field. We will get to that later. But yeah, a lot of branches in the ABN community sort of reaching out towards this flagship event. I felt everyone wants to be a part of it. And Seth Wansing making sure to try and book his ticket here with these laps. Lap number 1 will be a 39.475. And there's some pace backing the track now.
Yeah, that cloud cover has dropped the temperature by 5 degrees Celsius already. So Seth Wansing very much taking advantage of that to set in a first lap time that looks like it might be capable of breaking into the top 5 again.
And while we talked about weather, there was a lot of talk sort of in the days leading up to this session about how much of an effect wind might have and sort of the wind speed and the direction on the lap times here. Very calm. The flag's not really flying here at IMS today. Only 3 miles an hour blowing to the southeast. With a 39.489 lap 2. Very consistent. A bit like what we saw from Brennan Dredd, but just a little bit faster. And so this could be a challenge for maybe the top 3 here.
Yeah, revs dropping just a little bit through turn 2 that time around, but still looking like he's managing to maintain that speed down the back straight. Threatening 233 miles an hour on turn in for 3. A really, really solid run for Seth Wansing so far, who we really haven't seen much from in the Champ Car World Series. Really showing his hand.
Yeah, P4 qualifying at New Hampshire, looking to carry that momentum forward. 39.533 is keeping it up the way you'd want to keep it up. As he's not quite going below the line there, maybe triddling on the old tyres to get it down there, but again, as long as you're smooth with your inputs, it can sometimes be helpful to just carry a little bit more speed and not try and fight the car too much, I think. If you can get it hooked in early, that's good, but if you miss it a bit, I think it's better to roll with it rather than try and fight the car down. It's just put so much speed trying to do that. And out the final corner here, drive a 39.571 with an average of a 517. That'll be 3rd place.
Wow, really, really impressive run from Seth Wansing there. As I said, showing his hand finally at the Arrowhead 500 and might have a shot at the pole shootout later on today. Track temperature's stable now. Bryce Saucier in the 07 is going to have similar track conditions as to what Seth Wansing just had to deal with. So a Champ Car veteran, one of the most frequent starters in this series, and our 2nd youngest race winner. Very much an oval specialist, and came flying out of the gate at the start of this championship, and was part of that really, really close finish with race 1 winner Christina Ryan and championship contender Emily Howe. Hasn't really managed to have a strong middle part of the season, but has recovered towards the end of the championship, and has worked really closely with previous championship contender Nicholas Pressey in a bit of a mentorship role for Pressey to try and bring Saucier up to pace over the rest of the season. He's been quite aggressive and is always out there looking for a bit of a fight on track, but right now it's all about what he can do in a solo 4-lap average qualifying at the Brickyard.
Oh, very close to the wall, and that's at 4, not quite making contact. But that might be a sign of things to come. It's a fast lap, it's in the 4s, but only just, and the more you slide the tyres, the less they're going to give you later on in the run. Tough balance.
Yeah, we already know how much the iRacing time model likes to get flash heated, and the problem is at a track like IMS, the tyres don't really get a chance to rest because there's so much energy being put through them, even on the straight, so they're not really cooling down in the way that you'd perhaps expect or maybe want them to. And you can see that in the drop-off of speed in the final corner for Bryce Saucier there. 39.565, not a fantastic second lap. Again, perhaps just heating those tyres a little bit more than he wanted to, and they're not giving him the grip that he wanted.
quite an early entry to turn 2 there, maybe. But a little bit out of rhythm as the tires change under. You've got to be very adaptable to run a 4-lap average here, because everything is changing around you. The weather's changing, the temperature in the engine, the tires, and you've got to keep a cool head around all of that temp. So 39.612 for lap number 3. It's looking a bit of a middling run here, but again, it'll get you in the 500. And for a lot of people, I think that's step 1. You've got so much time during the race to make moves happen. Just making the show and locking yourself in is probably enough for most people.
From what we've seen from Bryce Saucier all season so far, that's exactly what he's going to be able to do. Slap in a nice average lap time, keep yourself in a nice safe spot, and worry about racing your way to the front rather than starting there.
Yeah, we have seen MPM start from the pits a couple times. I was confused there because the lap time didn't change for 3 and 4. It was a 6.12 for both of them.
Wow.
And that'll be a 5.72 average. We'll slot in just ahead of Ruby Estes. And that is a very sort of tight cluster now at the edge of the top 9. That'll bump Emily Howe out, and she will start behind the first 3 rows next Wednesday.
I think is Emily Howe may be kicking herself for running so early, because we still haven't seen any of the other championship contenders of Lilac Zia and Austin Farr out there on track so far. And they may get better track conditions than her, but now focus your attention on car number 70. It's Gearcats Emma Kruger.
Beautiful pink machine there. Of course, running the Open Medicine Foundation ribbon. Of course, I think everyone at ABN has a place in the heart for support for people with ME, CFS, chronic fatigue, long COVID, all sorts of chronic conditions such as those. Emma Kruger sort of has been living with it for a number of years now, and it's always great to see her on track. Of course, Season 3 champion, and just an ace on the road courses, has made limited starts this season, but really hasn't been able to find any luck. Not having the run of play almost. But if now's the time to make a statement coming into the 500, this is going to be it. And a 39.473 to open up proceedings here.
Pretty much on par with Seth Wansing's first lap at the moment. Emma Kruger very much a bit of a road course specialist in these sorts of cars, but is benefiting from a massive drop in track temperatures at the moment. 38.3 on the old Mercury right now, as we're seeing some fantastic speed from Emma Kruger right now.
And of course, Emma's first oval win came in Season 3 at Homestead, so that's very close to the wall. We'll see if that lap time will be counted. With a bit of a fuel mileage situation, 39.541 for that second lap. But yeah, I think next week that could be sort of the conversation. We've got a very long race with a lot of time to make some strategy happen. And Emma Kruger could be lying towards that, but for now it's just 10 miles flat out, foot to the floor, if you can manage it with the temperatures. Arcing in turn 3 and 4 and right down onto the curb, and the car gets a touch loose. Not enough to unsettle, but maybe not the quickest way around the track, and again nibbling at that curb through turn number 4. And it's not that slow. You expect it to maybe be taking a bit of pace out of the car, but it's a 5.72. Could be a hell of a lot worse.
Yeah, that's that change in track conditions that we're seeing at the moment, back down to even below the track conditions at the start of the session. You see, as it gets later on in the day, in the next 25 minutes, we're expecting the track temperature to go up and then drop back down again. But with this cloud cover, Emma Kruger being able to take advantage of that and bang in a really solid qualifying run, and could even threaten the top 9 at the moment.
Using every inch of the track from top to bottom, a 5.60 final lap. That will be a 39.537. Lots in just behind her teammate Lila Peletier Sharp in P6. and they'll be hoping to see a little bit of sunshine now, and maybe they can both hit a trip to the top 9.
Yeah, really important lap time from Emma Kruger there. 2 Gearcats cars currently in for the shootout for pole. They are, of course, in with a shot at taking the team's championship in the Champ Car World Series. So Emma Kruger, team owner of Gearcats, is going to be buzzing about that one.
Next up, the 23 of Tommy Withers. If you were watching the start of the broadcast, you'll be very familiar with this Valvoline car and some of the shenanigans that were being run as we reset the session. 4 starts this season, the first one being at Texas, and by far the strongest performance. Climbed 20 positions to finish P7 at the end of that race. But since then, been struggling a little bit. Finished all the way down in 23rd at Richmond, got P13 finish on the lead lap at Auto Club, and then not much to show at Milwaukee. But fresh start here in Indianapolis, and that's the start of lap number 1, and carrying a lot of speed, but not really washing out to the edge of the track. Maybe a little bit tentative coming through lap 1 again. A lot of these drivers have been sat idle for more than an hour at this point. They've been able to watch everyone else run their laps, but don't have an idea of how the car feels underneath them. And I sort of having to play it by ear on lap 1. And a little bit more confident through turn 3, starting to warm into this lap, but not expecting the fastest time through lap 1 here. We'll have to see whether it improves as the sun again starting to poke through the clouds.
Yeah, a lot of grip available in the track surface at the moment. Tommy Withers comes across the line to set a 39.517 for his first lap. Not good enough for the top 9 at the moment, but if he can get his eye in and start to maybe just carry a little bit more speed, a little bit of a wiggle on the exit of turn 2 there, but carry a little bit more speed through the corners, get those lap times down under the 4s, he could start threatening the top 9, but for the moment, not looking like much of a threat.
Yeah, that 39.4 lap 1 has so far been the bellwether. Everyone who's gotten that is currently in the top 9. Everyone who's missed out is currently below. Not a bad second lap, though.
5.46 is comparable to Brennan Gregg at the moment, who sits at P10. So, unfortunately, not looking like a top 9 capable run for the number 23 car right now. But there's still 2 more laps to set. But again, not really being able to take advantage of the grip as it stands. Tommy Withers, we know, very fast in race trim, but of course that doesn't matter right now. It's all about what you can make the Dallara IR18 do in qualifying. 39.6, that drop off way too harsh for the driver of the 23 at the moment. So now it's going to be, where does he start relative to those who haven't made it into the top 9 yet?
Yeah, because everyone between P10 and P30 will be locked into their positions on rows 4 through 10 of the grid for next week out here 500. And oh!
Bin!
What a catch! That's gonna that's still gonna count.
Oh, he's lost
unless... Well, never mind. Too much of the curb coming through turn 3. A big slide that he did a great job to save, but again, the tyres were so lit up after that. I just lost the car through turn number 4.
Really
that would be our 3rd invalidated run of the session.
Yeah, very unfortunate end to the run for Tommy Withers there. Just trying to get a little bit too much out of the car, perhaps inspired to push by the grip in the track surface, but it kind of started to fade away from him at the end of the race as the temperatures came back up and the tyres started to wear out. Turned in for the corner, the car bit in the way that he expected, and then just nothing, as attention now shifts to car 11 of Tommy Reynolds.
One Tommy to another, and a bit of a similar looking colour scheme. It says Sitco sort of blue into red fade on car number 11 and arcing it through turn number 1 down till below the white line, but about a car width off the wall on exit, drifting a little bit up and then hugging that white line on exit of entry turn number 2 and back out. That's a pretty pedestrian, pretty smooth 1 and 2, I think, and It's about how you then ramp it up from here down to the white line, and again drifting up towards the wall, just smoothly enough to extract a bit of pace out of this. And I expected a 0.5 for this one, I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I didn't like the tyre scrub through turn 4, but there's a 39.4
Well,
to open the bank. Decent.
Well, I'll shut up then.
Yeah, decent start to the lap there. Really, really impressive run from Tommy Reynolds. Even after the first lap, just got his iron really, really nicely on the warm-up lap and the first lap. Speed's been really good by the end of the straight. On the run into 3, just tickling 233 again on turning, but not quite using all of that track. Perhaps trying to save some of the risk taken for the end of the run. But solid stuff from the driver of the 11. Just to keep the car in one piece and leave a little bit of margin for those last 2 laps as he comes down to the line yet again.
4.72. A second lap in the 39.4s. This is looking pretty promising for the number 11 car.
Yeah, but this
and
is the lap
very
that
low through turn 2 there.
Yeah, this is the lap that matters now. This is the first lap where we usually see a big amount of runoff. But if Tommy Reynolds has been able to keep his tyres alive, then he's going to have a really decent shot of making it into the top 9. I think pretty much as long as he doesn't put it in a wall, he's going to make it into the top 9 with this run.
We have a low entry into 3 there, but the rest of the 3 and 4 section looks very nice and smooth. We'll know when we hit the stripe what lap 3 is. 39.558, and there's the fall off. But we were expecting that. It's still pretty comparable to the runners in the top 9.
Yeah, Tokusoi set a very similar lap time on his lap 3, but you can hear the tyre scrub and the lack of grip now as he just doesn't quite carry the speed out of turn 2 that he was on the first 3 laps. Not even getting into the 233 mile an hour window in the run down to turn 3, just all that speed in the car really starting to bleed off, but that could be a combination of the track temp starting to come up too, now at 43.3 Celsius.
And that front row provisionally for the 11 car, 39.515 slots in right between Martin Robert and Seth Wansing. And with only about 10 cars left to go in this run, that might be a ticket to the to the top 9.
Yeah, we're talking about how the track grip disappears as the track temps come up, and we are looking at 43 Celsius on the Mercury right now as Bruce Silver comes out on track to start their run. Not ideal conditions for the dog box driver.
I mean, you say that, but we just saw a 3rd place time. There's a lot to be said for what's behind the wheel rather than what's outside the wheel.
Yeah, but I gotta say, Tommy Withers was a little bit lucky that the track temperatures were still under 40 Celsius when he did his first 2 laps. And it was really in the last 2 that the temperatures really started to creep up. So, very much those are what to blame for that 39.6 towards the end of the run there. But now, Bruce Silver, Dogbox Racing, comes around to start their lap.
Yeah, one of a few Brazilians looking to qualify into this race, and has had a pretty decent season, especially on the road courses and the short tracks, but hasn't had too many flying results at speedways. Did have a great qualifying at Homestead though, put it on pole position, and we're looking to replicate that success here again on the newer Homestead layout and not the 95 layout, which looked very much like this track. But we're still expecting to see what Bruce Silver can do here, using all the track on the exit of 4. We've seen some cars dip down and move away from the wall on the front stretch, and some cars choose not to, and it'll be a 39.521 from Bruce Silver. Maybe, again, that track temp tick just a little bit too much right now for the Fast 9, but can still book a ticket into the 500 with a consistent remaining 2.5 laps.
Yeah, a bit of a Bruce Silver's best results coming on short tracks and road courses, and not quite there on the super speedways. Good experience in single seaters though, and that definitely shines big on those aero dominant tracks. But just really struggling in the conditions right now, not able to get the grip that's in the track surface. Another 39.5, good consistency from the Brazilian driver, but not fast enough to challenge for the top 9. But this is what we talked about earlier, is it's not about making it into the top 9 for a lot of these drivers. Your target is to make it into the show, and this lap is definitely good enough to do that right now. As Bruce Silver coming into turn 3, good speed on entry, but maybe a hint of a lift on entry to the corner to get the car down to the apex. But I don't know, it looks like a bit of a scruffy run so far.
At temp at 105 Fahrenheit right now, but still consistency. Has only lost 200 through the first 3 laps, and actually, if lap 4 can be more the same, this might just need to spot into the top 9 for now.
It's going to be a very difficult thing to do, especially with how much the grip appears to have dropped off for Bruce Silver. Lots of tire scrub through turn 2 that time by, just asking a little bit too much from the Firestone rubber. But really good speed through turn 3, actually, I gotta say. A nice line through turn 4, that characteristic rev drop that we've seen from everyone so far. Just staying over to the right, hugging that wall. Was that another 5-4-6? Is that going to be good enough?
Getting caught out by it, and that is good enough. That is tied with Emma Kruger, actually, for 7th place. We might have to go for the 4th decimal place for those two.
Wow, goodness me. Brilliant run from the number 36 there to take advantage of what little track grip was there. Bravo. Bravo, bro.
And Emma Kruger is going to have it by 3/10,000th on the average, it looks like. Just has, as the sum was 1,000th faster across 10 miles. That'll be brewing to 8th place, which is still in the window, but only, you know, it's tentative for sure. Next up, speaking of Kruger, it's the Gearcats driver of Lilac Zare, who is very much in this championship fight, currently 33 points back from Austin Farr, but with this event being double points, it could be enough. And Lilac Zare has taken 3 of the last 6 pole positions.
Yeah, she needs to get into the top 9, I think, to have a shot at the championship. A little bit of luck really needs to come her way, but we know how fast Lilac Zare can be. Very talented, very skilled driver behind the wheel of the Dallara IR18. So, almost expecting big things from her in this qualifying session. She's adapting to the track conditions quite quickly, it seems. 233 on the speedo as she turns in for 3. Tricky conditions for her, though. The track temperature without that cloud cover has crept back up to 43 degrees Celsius. So it's going to be about seeing if she can get or she can take advantage of all the grip that's available to her. What's the first lap? It's a 5 dead. 39.5 dead. What she needs to do now, though, is be consistent. Keep her lap times down really low in the 39.5s, and she might just be able to sneak into the show. But that rev drop through turn 2, not looking comfortable for the Gearcats driver right now.
Yeah, it's about if you can just roll it through the corner as smoothly as possible to give your tyres what they need for lap 4. We saw a fantastic showcase of that from Bruce Silver. And Lilac Zare going 200 faster on lap 1, but he's going to need to do the exact same thing to have a shot at the top 9. Although we have seen she's been able to do some great work from further back in the grid when required, has just been incredibly consistent. But I'm sure you'd love to be starting in the front 3 rows for this race.
I feel like she definitely needs to. 45 Celsius is the track temp now. That cloud cover is completely burned away. And Lilac Zare is having to run in the hottest track conditions that we've seen from anyone so far, and is managing it brilliantly at the moment. Just getting those lines dead on every single time she turns the wheel. That car looking very planted, very stable, and carrying all the speed she needs to. So next lap time coming up for you. Ooh, 39.644. I think it's going to be a big ask for her to make it into the top 9.
You saw the slip handle pretty heavy through turn 1 there. I think she's done all she can, but
just off that ribbon in line through turn 2. The back end almost giving up on her, but she's able to gather it up and keep going. So I think now she just wants to finish this run and make sure she gets into the show. That's the best thing she can hope for. Oh no, she spun! Lilac Zare spins through turn 3 on the final lap of her qualifying run. Track conditions nowhere near where she needed them to be. That's going to be an invalid run, and she's going to need the last chance qualifier to try and make it in. Championship contender Lilac Zia in the last chance qualifying session next week.
And being 33 points back, she kind of needed a win here next week, and now he's going to have to try and qualify on the back row and charge all the way through the field. Got 500k to do it, but it's still a big ask. Next up, Alex Martin, number 92 car from Lincoln, Nebraska. Again, these temperatures just brutal right now. 116 Fahrenheit.
And going up, that cloud cover has, as I say, completely disappeared. Alex Martin, who hasn't really had a fantastic season so far, needs to try and make something happen for the 500, but the conditions right now just not giving him the opportunity that he needs to. 46.7 on the Mercury, and not much grip through turn 2, just a little bit wide of that apex, and trying to carry as much speed as he can down towards turn 3, but the car's just not giving him anything.
Yeah, and you can see the car sliding out a little bit on the rear tires, and even more through turn 4. This car is not happy with the conditions. The setup is not mingling well with it. It's still a 39.6, but I'd be more worried about whether this run can be completed with how loose that car is looking right now.
Every little micro slide you have is going to heat those rear tires up more. Alex Martin getting really close to the concrete through turn 1. Not so much grip down there as there is on the rest of the circuit, but just about manages to make it work. But don't think it's going to help his lap time too much, because all those micro slides just flash heat in the surface of the rear tires, and that's really where that's the axle you're relying on to get the lap time out of the car, because you can slide the car a little bit, but if the rubber starts to overheat and gives up, you're going to see a spin like we saw from Lilac here on that last run. Martin then right down to that concrete once again, really confident through turn 1 and actually making that work, Olivia.
There's a bit of a wiggle on the exit though, and that's the wall.
As we've seen a couple of times so far, a car contact 0x is going to invalidate that run, and that's going to be 2 invalid runs we've seen in a row if it was in fact a 0x.
You'd have to imagine it is. Sometimes you can get away with a very light contact with the wall, and it's almost as if the client sees it but the server doesn't. That one is a pretty hefty hit to the wall. And to confirm, that lap time is not registered by iRacing. That will be the 5th invalid run of the session, the 2nd in a row. These temps now starting to take runs off the board entirely.
One of the unique challenges with dealing with a live weather as it changes. Everyone only getting that one run. It makes it really tricky to try and gauge that window when you can go out on track and get optimum track conditions. Some drivers are able to take advantage though of the poorer track conditions to still make it in. Bruce Silva, we saw, currently sat P8 in the top 9 at the moment in these really poor track conditions, but Alex Martin is going to have another chance in the last chance qualifier, but this run is essentially dead.
It really was a magical run from Bruce Silva. Had the fastest lap 4 of anyone today, even with the conditions being much less favourable. 39.546 on lap 4 for the 36 car. Next up, the 0-0 of Pacey Wygert for PBR Racing, coming off a very strong 2nd place finish last time out at Phoenix. And has been learning quickly in this car. Only 5 starts, but really getting to grips after coming from stock car machinery as his sort of main trade, having the HGL Hammer Down Truck Series Championship in season number 1.
Yeah, Pacey's been kind of challenging for the top 10 in the last couple of races, and been looking racy every time he's come out on track. Carrying really good speed into turn 1 there, not really caring for the track conditions. Really wide on exit and just keeping it out of the wall, but so wide of the apex through turn 2, but Wygen's going to have every chance to carry the speed down into turn 3. But a messy looking lap so far. It's going to be a struggle to extract a decent 4-lap average out of this one.
And you've got to think, as the mentality of a driver coming into your lap run, seeing the previous 2 fail to complete it cleanly, are you shooting for a top time, or are you just trying to get this car into the show at this point?
I think that's a decision that's got to be made in the cockpit, depending on how aggressive you want to be. But Pacey Wygen definitely wants to try and make it in, but again, it's just those track conditions not giving him the support that he needs with a 39.7 to open his bank account.
And again, it's about how you continue it. It's taking quite a low arc on the entry, not really using the entire track. But maybe that's a safe lap, and maybe that's what Pacey's looking for here.
Wind starting to pick up again now. It's a whole 12 kilometers an hour, or 3 miles an hour, as the weather page is saying, and Pacey will feel that in the cockpit. It's going to give him a bit of speed on the straights, but just not able to take advantage of it at the moment. Just go faster on his second lap, but Pacey Wygen not looking comfortable in that car.
Yeah, a little bit of skew on the rear end through turn 3. That's where we saw a mistake from Lilac Zir on lap number 4. So Pacey's really got to try and keep the car underneath him here. The lap time's still in the 7s. It's consistent, but it's not flying. And again, I think at this point you've got to set your mind to just try and get this car home in one piece and take whatever grid spot you end up being given.
Realistic though, in these track temperatures, we've got the tools, we've got the weight jacker and the ARB. Is there much that you can do to overcome these much hotter, lower grip track temps?
I mean, you can definitely settle the car, but you're gonna be giving up pace for it. Like, I'd say between a good and a bad driver, you definitely got a tenth or two that you can see. But the track temp is also doing about that as a consistent run for Pacey Wygen, all 4 laps in the 7s, and that will lock him into the field, but it'll be in P18 currently between John Hayden and Ollie Fraser.
Yeah, tricking conditions catching out some of these drivers now, as Hunter Peach is currently sat on pit lane, waiting to go out, has been given the call to get moving, and that IR18 does start to roll. It's not been a fun season. Oh, the number 6 has spun already and into the barrier, and that's going to be run over. Wow.
I was about to say, has a lot to live up to after qualifying on pole in 2022. And will not be able to challenge for that.
You know, me and Olivia sat down and wrote all these notes before the session, and we're ready to just roll into it every time a car goes out on track. And we were about to really get into it for the 6 car there, and then they just spin it on pit exit. Unfortunate.
I don't know what to say, honestly. It's kind of a little bit speechless. Eli Sasek going to roll now the number 9 car, so we're going to flip that 6 upside down and see if Eli can have any more luck here.
Yeah, Eli Sasek, of course, one of our protagonists in our race at the Glen, competing against eventual race winner Craig Forsyth for that one. Bit of a road course specialist again, so it's going to be interesting to see what Sasek can do on the big stage at qualifying for the Arrowhead 500.
Yeah, a 3rd place finish inherited at Texas and 7th place at Richmond, but really struggling to show too much form other than that. But again, front row start for Watkins Glen, and we try to qualify that, transfer that qualifying performance to here. But again, the track temp 118 Fahrenheit.
It is far from nice. An ABN champion, of course, in his own right as well in the LMP2 class of the short-lived ISCC. But this car very much built by the same company, but does not feel the same. Sasek going to be really struggling in these track conditions. Coming around to finish lap 1, what is the first lap time going to be? 39.7. Brutal start to his qualifying run. It looks like it might be good enough to make the field for now if he can keep that pace up. But as we've already seen, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to really be a struggle as the temperature now creeps above 48 degrees Celsius as we reach solar noon.
And doesn't it show?
Back-to-back poor runs from pretty much everyone right now, mostly due to track conditions. Just so hard to keep the tires on the tarmac, and that's what we've seen from everyone so far. But Sasek keeping the car pointed in a straight direction at the moment at 39.714, does improve compared to the first lap. Again, not quite good enough to make it into the top 9.
Yeah, I think we seem to be especially tentative on that first lap, and I really can't blame them. You want to try and work your way into the run, but it means they can find a little bit more, maybe as they sort of progress through this one. We saw it from Pacey Wygant as well, and now Eli Sasek find a couple of hundredths on lap number 2, but it seems to disappear just as fast as you gain it, because the tyres just run away from you almost as fast as you catch.
Well, Stasek's been there watching everyone else go out on track and watching as the track temperature climbs, and probably taken note of the fact that a lot of drivers have been making mistakes in these hotter conditions, and knows that to be safe to make the field, all he needs to do is finish his run, and that should be all he's thinking about right now, is keeping it safe and keeping it clean.
There's a lot of hesitance on pit road right now. People don't really want to be volunteering themselves to run right now. If we don't have any drivers lined up, it will go by reverse championship order. And so still a little bit of time for some of these drivers to try and hope for the track to cool down. For Eli Sasek to complete the run as it is right now, 39.82 sits on lap number 4. Again, a slight improvement from lap 3. And it'll be starting right below Pacey Wygant.
Yeah, Eli Sasek in the wall on his cooldown lap. Fortunately, that didn't come one lap sooner. He does get to complete that run and does look like he's going to make the show. Next car on track, though, is going to be car number 72, and that is one of our colleagues out of Syracuse, New York, fellow ABN commentator, Kevin Young.
I mean, fantastic to hear him every week, of course. I believe currently working primarily as a commentator on the HTL Cup Series now, with Carmen hopping into one of her Arrowhead racing machines. And Kevin Young stealing my car number as we do a bit of a commentary swap here, and taking the 72 out on track through turns 3 and 4 to try and start the qualifying run, and the track temp's not getting any cooler. So I'm a little bit worried about what the times might be, but I think Kevin would be happy to just start off. Did compete previously in the Arrowhead 500 back in 2022, and actually took the checkered flag first before being penalised for a last lap incident with Christina Ryan. Ends up being traded with a 4th place finish for that one. But a P10 start as well for Kevin Young.
Yeah, he's got a lot of potential in the cockpit of that IR18, but hasn't really had the chance to show it as of late. So coming back to us for the Arrowhead 500, he's going to have a chance to make that happen as he comes around turn 4 and down towards the line to set his first lap. I think we're expecting a very high 39. Oh, it's a 40.0.
Painful stage of the afternoon here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and I think with now 6 invalid times, I think any valid lap is gonna, or any valid run is gonna get you into the show, and I think people have to just fall back on that as their plan, or prayers to Tempest to pull some cloud over here.
Yeah, the frustration is there for all of the drivers, talking to their engineers and making their disdain for the track temperatures known. Not much they can do. They're just at the hands of the Tempest gods. Kevin Young not really trying to push, just as you say, making sure that he makes the show. 39.7 on that second lap to actually make an improvement. But again, just doesn't really look like he's getting anything out of the car right now.
It's just so tough. And the track temp 119 for the past couple of runs now. Dropped to maybe 1 degree Celsius, couple Fahrenheit, down to 117 now, but it's a long way to go until you get into friendly temps, shall we say. A bit of a scorching hot track for these drivers to deal with, and back up to the 39.8 for lap number 3.
An hour and 47 minutes gone of this qualifying session. We've still got a few drivers to run here. A couple of drivers joining in late. Hamas Nakabuzi rejoining us, as well as Josh Tucker, both still waiting to make a run. But Kevin Young is our focus right now. Coming around turn 4 to finish his final lap of his run. Keeps it on the straight and narrow, keeps all 4 tyres on the car, and comes across the line. And just like that, makes the show. Kevin Young will be in the field for the Arrowhead 500.
Yeah, slotting in just behind Lily Fraser in 21st. Currently road number 7 for the race. And with how the temps are right now, we might not see too many jump above that time right now.
No one wants to come out on track as it stands. No one waiting at the end of pit lane either. There is a system in place to force drivers out on track. If it comes to it, they will be chosen in reverse championship order to make their way to the end of pit road. No volunteers at the moment. Carmen Sienna basically selling it off. Let's see who's going out on track next. So car number 2 will be forced out onto the pit lane, and that is going to be Ryan Pennell. Ryan Pennell will set a qualifying time.
Yeah, reverse points order, I believe, going by a not applicable here to start off with. Ryan Pennell, if I can just double check this real quick, I don't believe has made a start this season.
No, you are correct.
And in fact, I believe has not made an oval start since season 2, if that's the note I'm recalling in my head somewhere. Oh no, raced in Kentucky last season, but otherwise his only start since season 2. Ran, I believe, the full campaign back in season 2 though, and had a pretty strong points finish with one of the contenders for still part of the championship. Finishing 12th overall for Team Sideswipe back then.
Yeah, a little bit of luck coming Pennell's way there, because the track temperature dropped a whole 3 Celsius in the last couple of minutes, so he's going to have some track conditions similar to what Brennan Gregg was running in towards the start of this session, I believe. So, a decent shot of getting a decent string of lap times in. Very wide through turn 2 though, right in the marbles on the outside of that corner, just having to come out the throttle a little bit to keep the car square. So maybe a bit of a throwaway for Ryan Pennell so far.
Comment here from Kevin Young, just wanted to make it into the show. Doesn't matter where you start, it's where you finish, and that confirms our theory. Well, you certainly made it, Kevin. Welcome to the show. We'll see you next week. Ryan Pennell coming to finish lap number 1, and that's a 39.905. Not finding any pace in this track just yet.
Yeah, that little bit of a rear end step out costing him a surprising, well, not a surprising amount of time, but a lot of times he touches the barrier. And that's going to be an invalid lap time.
Did I race in India is the question.
That's what we're waiting for as he comes through turn 3, keeping it nice and neat through there. Same through 4. We are about to find out if it is a valid run though. Ryan Pennell, a little bit of contact with the wall on the exit of turn 2, but is it a 0x? Yes, it is. That's going to be Ryan Pennell's run over, and that will go down as a DNF.
And it's looking like we might have enough cars that we're going to be having a second set of runs here for people who couldn't quite get it done the first time. And a bit of a saving grace, I think, especially for the 89, whose championship kind of depends on a solid result here today. Next up is Carmen Sienna, who I think has volunteered herself a little bit. I don't think It's not that low in the championship, but it's just tuned to get it done now. Of course, went first in the initial session with the plan of trying to sort of get everyone else shepherded at the time. But as needs may, as a lot of chaos happened, it's waiting until now. But now the 96 of the ABN founder in that Arasaka machine, of course, always a Cyberpunk fan, repping there. Coming turns 3 and 4 for Arrowhead Racing to start.
So if Carmen makes it into the show next week, it will be her 60th start in ABN Champ Car competition, which is the most starts of anyone in the entire series.
And that's impressive that she missed all of Season 2 by virtue of being the commentator for that one. So to still rack up 60 starts over 5 seasons is one hell of an effort. I think she might have ran the Kentucky race, or might have wanted to at least. But here comes Carmen Sienna, and the cloud cover's rolling in. The track temp hasn't dropped too much yet, but it's going to be enough to hopefully get herself nice and comfortably into the show. It's mostly 3 and 4 with the cloud sitting right now on a 39.508. That is more like what we were seeing earlier in the session. Yep.
Carmen Sienna, we know, is a very skilled driver in these cars. She has been known to say that the Dallara IR18 car is her favorite on the entire service. She was looking to be a championship contender this season, but I think the field has been a little bit more competitive than perhaps she expected. As maybe a little bit of a netcode contact with the wall on the outside of 3 there. But yeah, the competitiveness of the field has been something I don't think a lot of us expected, especially not Carmen, who comes across to do a 39.6. She was looking threatening in the middle of the season there, but again, just wasn't able to bring home any real special results at all. So arguably a disappointing season for Carmen, but this show, the Arrowhead 500 is her baby, so she's going to give it everything she's got in this qualifying session to try and make it in right down to the concrete on the apex of turn 3, carrying so much speed through that corner, trying to maximize this run as best she can, keeping the revs quite high on the exit of turn 4 this time actually, and across the line she comes. 39.6, nice consistency over the last 2 laps for Carmen, but this is going to be the last lap that she gets. The tires now screaming for grip, not giving her much of anything at the moment, but she's placing the car so neatly and so nicely through these corners, getting right down to that concrete in some places as well. There's not so much grip down there because you don't see a lot of cars running below the white line, but she's looking for every ounce of speed through these corners that she can. Get below the white line through both 3 and 4, keeping the speed up on corner exit. As she comes down to the start finish line, she's going to tickle 230 over the line, and the last lap will be a 39.693.
That'll be good for P15, slotting in between Brandon Cruz and Zach McBride. Much faster than what we've seen from the past couple of cars, and so is that just a bit of Carmen magic, or is that a sign of things to come?
An impressive bit of driving from the 96 there. But Hamilton Akabuzi is now going to be forced out on track. Car 7, the next one to line up at the end of pit lane.
Could wait a bit longer, but I think he has been having a bit of internet issues so far in this session and throughout the season a little bit. So biting the bullet, trying to get running now while things seem stable and just dealing with the conditions as they are. But looks like the sun is peeking out through the clouds again, so it's pretty rough timing for it.
Yeah, Hamilton Akabuzi has been the absolute class of the field in terms of pace on ovals so far this season. And whilst he's only a part-time driver and isn't quite in contention for the championship, he could still be a spanner in the works to steal points away from Lilac-Zier, Austin Farr, who hasn't made a run at the moment, I might add, and Emily Howe. So of course we know Lilac-Zier needs to win in order to have a good shot at this championship, but that means she's going to have to beat Hamilton Akabuzi perhaps in a straight fight, but a little bit of discontinuity already for the number 7 driver, and if that happens on any of his flying laps here, that will invalidate his run, Olivia.
Yeah, it depends how significant of a blink it is for the driver, but if the server can't confirm the sort of exact lap time, then it'll have to throw it out, and that, well, I mean, we can't calculate average either. We did see a very slow roll out of the access lane for Hamilton. It was only about 75 until he got onto the exit of turn 2. We've seen him with very specific qualifying strategies in the sort of fastest lap runs had this season. And he's trying a little bit of a hair, and he's seeing so close to the wall all throughout the run. The precision is just so huge. A 39.445.
Wow. In these track conditions,
In
that
these
is
track conditions.
insane. Hamilton Akabuzi came into I5G not as an oval driver, but they have very much trained him up well. The amount of speed he's been able to carry through these corners at the moment, already having done laps and laps of practice for the month of May, just able to perfect every single corner. Every time he comes out of the exit of a corner, I can hear his tire or his wheels scraping against the wall. He's obviously not actually making that contact because it's not invalidating his runs, but what's this lap time going to be? Another 39.4 live.
This is just some of that Hamilton magic we've become accustomed to all season long. He knows he needs to put everything on the table in these attempts to make it into the Fast 9 and sort of reset those tables, and he's given it absolutely everything here.
Did you see how close he was to the concrete through turn 2 there? That is closer than anyone has been all session so far, but the track temp not working with him at the moment. It's gone up from 44 to 47 just in his run alone, and yet he's still flying. So 39.5 expected here. It's going to be a 5.72. That is much slower than his previous lap, and it may be slow enough that he doesn't make it into the top 9.
It's the third lap that Emma Kruger had, and Emma had a slower lap 1 and 2 as well, and they're currently lining up 7th on the grid, just behind Lily Pella Chase Sharp. Again, Hamilton doing a little bit of time travel here, making this out look more like a DeLorean.
It's going to come down to the grip in the track there, Olivia. 47.2 Celsius is the temperature right now. Can he take advantage of how much grip this car is giving him, though, and make it into the top 9 shootout? We're going to find out in just a moment.
5.83 final lap. That'll be a 5.23 average. That's tied with Tucker Sawyer for 5th place.
Frankie Wynn gets knocked out of the top 9 shootout, and Hamilton Akabuzi, in some of the trickiest track conditions we've seen all evening so far, makes it into the top 9. What a qualifying run.
Looks like Will slotting just behind for 6th place. 0.004 miles an hour slower, but really gave it everything he could. Lilac asking if she can volunteer for a qualifying run after the mistake in number 1. Carmen with a decisive no.
So I think the next driver we're going to see out on track here tonight is going to be Josh Tucker. I want to say is one of the more recent additions to the championship. He's not too far up the standings right now.
Yeah, just below, I think it'd be Tucker and then Henderson, if I'm looking at this correctly.
Wait, right here comes the announcement. Yep.
Confirmation.
It will be Josh Tucker. There's that confirmation for you. Car 44 rolls to pit lane. He's already been warming up his engine a little bit. Not quite got rolling yet, so he may get in trouble with the stewards if he doesn't get moving soon.
How bad would it be if he just gone to the bathroom and come back to a very angry Carmen? Yeah. But here he goes very slowly, and of course needs to park at the line.
Not allowed to roll straight out on track without race director's permission.
There we go.
That engine revving though. There we go. The command is given. Car 44 rolls out on.
Very much dragging his feet, given every possible second to try and get the track temp down. We had to disable qualifying scrutiny from iRacing given the issue up with the queue, but I'm sure the scrutiny from the boss lady is very much still in effect.
Yeah, Tucker a very late addition. He's come across actually from the Platinum Endurance Championship. He's part of the Ricer Engineering Acura squad that are currently leading that championship. Their next round of the championship, 24 Hours on the Mall, this weekend on ABN Esports.
Driver for India Alliance Racing and has been looked very, very strong
Disconnected,
when I've
or is
seen him
that
in
me?
officials.
Nah, there he is. Sorry, it was me that disconnected.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does a lot of running in this car, so there's a lot of talent and a lot of skill behind the wheel of this IR18. So if you want someone that might be able to challenge for top 9, even in these conditions, it's going to be Josh Tucker as he starts his first lap here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
And then the cloud cover rolling in and the track time dropping to 110. Still not, I mean, we were in double digits earlier on in the session, but that down now to 109. We're getting there, and Josh Tucker hoping it drops very quickly. We already tried to leave every possible second before getting rolling. Trying to leave every possible inch of track covered inside and out through turn 4 there. 231 coming to the line, just up to 232, and it's a 39.440.
What a first lap from Josh Tucker then, showing that he's done a lot of practice for this event. Arrowhead 500, not just big for us, but big for all the drivers. In fact, look at all the drivers that have come back specifically for this event.
Made his debut last week, but got out by some unfortunate netcode. I'm sure if the outside wall out of 2 was a car, there'd be more netcode there. That was so close to the margin for the number 44 car.
Yeah, leaving no stone unturned on the exit of the corners. The stones that have been sat next to those walls for about 20 years that Tucker has just overturned.
We've seen it from Hamilton. That's what's needed to get into the top 9 in these sort of conditions, and looks like Tucker is shooting for it. Doesn't want anything less. But of course, it's a very fine line between making it into that and potentially having to fight for your life later tonight or maybe even next week.
He was nice enough to start at the back of the field in pit lane at Phoenix, not setting a qualifying time just to allow the championship to unfold. But clearly, this is the event that he's mainly focused on, because he's out here tonight using every inch of the track, carrying as much speed as he can to give himself a shot at the pole and the win next week. 39.5 dead is the time. That's good. That's really good.
And Bruce Silver doing biting her nails right now, currently in 9th, losing out to Emma Kruger by 2/1000th of a mile per hour. But if Josh Tucker can put a good lap 4 in, that'll be the margin between 9th and 10th, and that'll be between coming back later tonight for a shot at pole and starting the race on row 4. Still not bad, but it's not quite pole position, is it?
No, not at all. The Arrowhead 500, the biggest event on the Champ Car World Series calendar, as Josh Tucker comes across the line for a 39.542, and that will make his average lap time a 39.490 and goes to the top. In these conditions, goes to the top. What a run from the car 44.
Just double checking that I've not typoed. That is correct.
To put himself on provisional pole position by 0.003 of a second on average. And a whole, it's not even a whole, it's less than 1/10 of a mile an hour. 227.907. Was so close, Liv. Was so close to that magic 228.
And I'm not sure if we'll get a reroll of the session for the top 9, but that could be the way it happens. Oh! A clip of the grass through the sort of turn 2 for Nicholas Pressey, getting a little bit sideways, but holding onto that machine, and his run will continue. One of the most tenured drivers in the series here, and had a very strong start to the season.
He was leading the championship at one point, and it's got to be said though, we weren't expecting him to turn up tonight, were we?
No, he's having pedal issues the past couple of weeks that have plagued him, and supposedly the way he's getting around that, this could be a qualifying run performed on controller unless something changed in the last couple hours. And so I think the goal is very much to just make the show, especially with the track temp still at 105. It is dropping, but not very quickly.
The thing is, he knows that even if he doesn't make it into the show, he's at least got a shot at last chance qualifying. He's been relatively smooth at the moment. I saw a little bit of jaggedy inputs just there, but that could be a little bit of iRacing netcode just not quite translating the movement over properly. Because Pressy coming around to finish lap 1. What is the time going to be? It's 39.496, which is pretty decent, especially if you consider the fact that he's on a controller, by all accounts.
Yeah, I've got a good friend, Ellis Spice, who's 3K on controller. Bought a wheel 18 months ago and just never got around to setting it up. I can't believe it. But from what I hear, the trick is you don't just hold the analog stick neutral, you push it forwards into the top of the arc, and then it lets you make those micro adjustments to about sort of between 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock, and that is how you get pace out of a controller. Of course, Noah Belleville won at Nashville back in Season 2 on a controller. Oh, a little bit close to the wall there. Not familiar for Pressy, but he just needs to try and get this car across the line for 2 more laps here. 39.605, much slower. And I think tyre wear is probably where you're going to find some issues with slightly less smooth movements.
Yeah, that lap time drop-off already quite dramatic, even in these conditions, which are a lot more similar to what we were seeing at the start of the session. This was an expected bit of drop-off, but Nicholas Pressy might just do enough to get into the show, but his average lap time may come under threat from some of these guys that wrecked out that may get to run again later in the session.
No, confirmation from that. They will filter in behind any drivers who set the lap first time by. So anyone who has a valid lap and is outside the top 9 will be locked into their starting positions for the 500.
So we're going to get our own little edition of Bump Day towards the end of the
Double
qualifying
bump day.
session here. Double Bump Day. Interesting. Okay. I like the sound of that. 39.7 though. Lap time is dropping off by about 1/10 of a second every time he makes a tour of IMS. But this is going to be his final lap on a controller. Where's he going to put it? Drum roll, please.
39.5 improved. And we'll slot in just behind Carmen Sienna on the sit through of the grid for now.
Wow. Press a bit of driver from Nick Pressy to set an average lap time run like that on a controller.
I think that puts Phil on notice about what he might be able to do. So I believe he will have something prepared by next week, is his hope. So if he can get settled back onto his into full strength, really, he could make a big charge through the field from the sit throw. Next up, the boss of HTL, it's Blake Henderson in the 25 machine. Has made 6 champ car career starts and
Won't start his qualifying run.
unless he decides to keep it rolling. He only has wind damage, but this could be a very slow run.
No, that looks like it's going to be a toe for me. He's not moving.
He's not moving.
The window net is not down. I repeat, the window net is not down. Blake Henderson back to the pit lane.
Got a bit of instruction from Carmen there. I think with how stationary he was, Carmen made the call to pull the plug on that run. And will be another car looking for another opportunity.
So focus shifts then to car number 25 from Frankfurt, Indiana. It's Mo Perry.
It's Az Miller right now, it seems like, at the front of the...
No, that's Mo Perry.
Alice Miller
Mo Perry's on track.
Yeah, as an on pit lane.
To the end of pit lane, yeah. Not a strong start to the championship for car number 28, but it's really picked it up over the last few races and knocked in some really, really impressive results. Very racy on track, looking to get really fast, and there or thereabouts in the top 10 week in, week out. But Mo Perry could be looking good coming into the 500. Currently got some really low track temps to try and make the best of. Down to 40 degrees Celsius yet again. Plenty of grip at the track surface. So, can Mo Perry, privateer, get into the top 9?
He'll give it everything he can here. 3 top 10s in the last 3 stars after not breaking that barrier once prior to that. Had 2 great qualifyings in a row at Las Vegas and New Hampshire, but couldn't convert anything from them, getting caught up in in really other people's incidents, I feel like. But a 39.498 looking to once again make a strong qualifying effort. Has done very well on that, fact, in the last 3 races, as well as finishing there. And this is the same starting lap time as Nicholas. No, not quite. Just a little bit slower than Nicholas Pressey had, it looks like.
Perhaps being on a wheel, a little bit more consistency could be the order of the day from Mo Perry. Just able to make those little micro adjustments as the tire wear starts to, or the tire temperatures start to creep up and the lap time starts to drop off. Just helps you keep control of the slide a little bit more. 39.521 is the second lap for Mo Perry. Cloud cover really helping him out here though, as we are seeing lap times a lot more similar to what we saw at the start of the session. Speed starting to ramp up on the run down to turn 3. 233 miles an hour once again on turn-in for the 28. Looking to have a really good run put together here. If not top 9, it's definitely going to be one good enough to make the show next week.
Lap number 3 complete across the stripe at 39.569. Nice. A nice continuation there for Mo Perry. And just 2.5 miles more to go. 3 turns now left to navigate for the 28 car. And he'll have a ticket punched and that's Arrowhead 500.
It's a nice, comfortable average lap time around the low 5s at the moment. But we're yet to see how this translates to whether or not Mo can make it into the top 5. It's going to take a bit of a banger lap time here to make that happen. You're looking at a 39.537 average as the cutoff right now. Mo Perry is a little bit over that, but with how the track temperatures come down, no, not going to make it into the top 5, but is going to make it into the show. It's actually going to match the average of Frankie Wynn and slots himself into P12 for the Arrowhead 500.
We're going to do a quick sort here, and they are actually matched perfectly on average speed as well, down to the 1,000th of a mile per hour. So those 2 spots might get swapped over. We'll have to maybe go digging into the API to get the 10,000th for the lap times. Because we had to do that once before. The Season 2 finale at Auto Club was decided by 1/10,000th of a second at the line. Which is just incredible when you think about it. But anyway, our last of our first lap runs, or first runs, Alex Miller, number 49 car.
Yeah, Alex Miller has been a really exciting driver to watch so far in this this championship campaign. Had a little bit of a slow start to the season. It's really impressive in qualifying, but his race pace has been absolutely amazing. One of those guys that can really rip that top lane and make those moves work when no one else can. Going around the outside of to take at Kansas to take a top 5 from your previous qualifier Mo Perry in the dying laps of the race. So very dare moves from Alex Miller. Good aggression. And as I say, really good race pace. Has been threatening to be really good on the ovals. But the question is, how good a lap time, or how good a qualifying time is he going to be able to set over the course of the next 4 laps?
There's currently 28 runs on the board. If Alex Miller can get this one in and valid, it will be 8 cars fighting for 1 spot. 29.412.
That is comparable to Bobby Plower's first lap time, who's currently sat P2 in the standings. So a bit of track temp helping Alex Miller out here. But is he going to be able to hold on to the car for 4 laps to make a dent at the top of the field?
Emma Kruger now the one on the bubble. Lily Pelletier Sharp, her teammate, is going to be safely into the top 9. But Emma Kruger
now
just watching intently about whether she can join her teammate or whether Alex Miller will steal that spot of 4.29 for lap number 2.
We said earlier in the session it was looking really good for Gearcats to have 2 cars in the top 9. But as the track temperatures come back down again and we've had some of the later runs go on, it's come more and more under threat. They're currently sat P8 and P9. And it looks like only one of them may get locked into the top 9 for this one.
Still 5 more corners for Alex Miller to navigate her. Gotta keep it clean. Gotta, I mean, not keep it clean, gotta keep it very quick. It's such a tight margin between being in the top 9 and out of the top 9 right now.
It's another 4 though. It's a 5.24, so a little bit of drop off on that third lap, but the pace is still there to challenge for that top 9. The last driver that's going to be able to make it into the top 9, car 49, Alex Miller, comes through turn 2 on his final lap. If he keeps it clean, he should make it into the top 9 shootout later tonight. Nice and smooth on the inputs through turn 3 and 4.
Right down to the concrete, no fear whatsoever.
It could come good for Alex Miller across the line. 39.515, and that's going to be an average of 39.470. That's the fastest. Is that fastest? It's the 228.
228.021 miles per hour.
Alex Miller, then, your fastest qualifier in the first qualifying session of the night. He doesn't just make it into the top 9 shootout, he's the fastest driver to make it in. What a set of 4 laps for Alex Miller. Very impressive.
So confirmation that 8 cars who wrecked out have a chance now to set a second qualifying run just to shoot for that one remaining spot. 30th place will be filled tonight. The other 3 spots on the grid will have to come back next week for the last chance qualifying.
It looks like Alex here is going to be the first driver out on track. And then it will be Alex Martin and Sophie Connell. So, Lilac Zia, we spoke about her earlier. She's in a position where she needs to win to be able to pull off the championship victory here tonight. But she's not going to be able to start any higher than 30th place, Olivia.
Yeah. I'm sure that's not what she's worried about now. I'm sure she knows she can make the moves forward if need be. For now, it's just about trying to make sure that she can make it into the show to begin with. As I do some more spreadsheet finagling.
It's the mathing as Lilac Zia comes around to start her first lap. Nice smooth run through turn 1. It looks like she's just trying to keep it clean here. But we are noticing that the track temperature is starting to creep up again. So she's in the best spot as it looks right now to try and make it into the show. All she needs to do, though, is keep all 4 tyres on the tarmac and not make the same mistake she did on her last run, and she's going to be in with a good shot of making it. We've seen how fast she can be. She's taken half of the pole positions in the last 6 races just because she's managed to keep it smooth and take the risk where she needs to. And it's a 39.490 as her first lap. What a first lap, then, from car number 89.
I'm sure the nerves are through the roof right now. Again, only 1 spot available tonight for these 8 drivers. And we know there's 8 drivers who want to fight their way in. And again, there's only 3 more spots available next week. So at least 4 of these drivers will not be able to run in next week's 500. Like, let's say one because she's not one of them. A 5.11 for lap number 2. And that's some good consistency.
Yeah, it's consistent. It's a difference of only about 200th of a second between those first 2 laps. And it's showing me that the 4.90 was the fastest lap of the session, but that's definitely not the case.
No.
No, I didn't think as much.
A little bit wide of the apex, it looks like through turn 3 there. but back down to the line for turn 4.
It shouldn't affect her too much though. This run's been solid so far. As she comes back across the line, we're still expecting a 5 from her this time. It is. It's a 5.82. She's still got a little bit more in the tank though, so she should be able to stay within those 5s and get herself a decent 4-lap average. Try and make it in. For reference, the last car to make it into the show at the moment is the 55 of iClub with an average of 40.867. Lilac's lap times are currently good enough to beat that by a significant margin, but of course we know that she can't make it any higher than 30th.
With through turn 4, this will be a valid run after the issues on lap 4 in the scorching hot temps. A 39.578 for lap number 4, and that's a 540. Would be enough to nearly make it into the Fast 9, actually. But we're past that point. This is currently P30, and there's up to 7 more cars with the opportunity to try and displace her if they are still around. Alex Martin will be next.
So this is it then. This is when the nerves really, really start to creep in. Lilac Zero has done literally everything she can to make it into the show and give herself a shot at taking the ABN Champ Car World Series title at the end of the final race of the season. Alex Martin in the number 92 car will be your next driver out on track. Olivia, what's on the line for Alex in this one?
Oh, I mean, it's everything really. Alex Martin has not had a terrible season as really is a P14 in the championship, but has had the benefit of a lot of good attendance through that. Had a good result at Vegas, good result at Auto Club, good result at Watkins Glen, but never really had the qualifying after race 1 of the season. So this is where he's got to make that change. He's got to make it now. It's now or never, or I suppose next week, but no one wants that. And Alex Martin try to carry as much as possible. We saw had a pretty decent run until tagging the wall on lap 3 of his first attempt, and that unfortunately invalidated the attempt. Alex Martin, the Echo Motors driver, is
car placement. Some really good car placement, Liv.
Yeah. Finished 5th in season 3 at the Brickyard, but it's now fighting to try and make it in to begin with. First lap's going to be a 39.494, 4 1,000ths slower than what Lilac was able to put down.
Lilac
out the remaining 3.
Yeah, Lilac said she was nervous as she started to watch everyone else set their lap times, but that may give her a little bit of respite. As Alex Martin doesn't manage to improve over her, but remember, it's about that 4-lap average. But Alex Martin not looking too stable on this run. The car not looking like it's really complying with what he wants it to do. Track conditions are in a nice, sensible window for him. But yeah, the rear end of that car just not being nice to him.
It's
39.6.
Gotta do something very special in these next 2 laps if he wants to make it in tonight.
They both need to be 4s.
Absolutely, they both need to be 4s.
It's doable, but can Alex Martin do it is the question.
Dropped 1.2 tenths to Lilac through lap number 2. Needs to gain those back in these next 2 laps. Very low 5s would do it, but only just.
Pressure is on them for Alex Martin. The run down to the line past the pagoda on the left, crosses the line for a 39.593. I don't think that's going to be enough.
Drops another 100th to Lilac Zir.
Yep, Lilac Zir lives to breathe another run as Alex Martin looking like he's going to have to go to last chance qualifiers at the moment.
I mean, what sort of tension is this to have 29 valid runs after the first round of qualifying with 30 spots available tonight? This is wild. Again, every driver who misses out here does have the chance next Wednesday right before the event, but for everyone else, they get the chance to go into the week knowing what to prepare for. Alex Martin is going to be missing out.
At least for now, 39.6 is the final lap time. And it's not going to be an impressive average, but he knows what he needs to do next week now. And just get the practice in and hopefully get a little bit more luck. on his runs. But Alex Martin will have to have another go of it in a week's time.
Up next, Sophie Connell for Gear Cats. The first driver to invalidate with a wall tap on lap 1, I believe. Didn't look too confident in the run leading up to that, but has been putting a lot of work into qualifying and now knows what the conditions are to expect. So Mike coming in all guns blazing here, and again, has the advantage of knowing the target, knows a 5.40 is what's needed to make it into the top 30 here tonight.
Yeah, it's one of those things that we've been talking about all season, is that driver mentality and how important it is to keep a cool head. Sophie Connell, they're one of those drivers that's been struggling with a bit of poor luck throughout the entirety of the championship, only managing to pick up one podium finish and practically DNFing every other race. So they've got nothing to lose really out here tonight. As a big lift in the middle of one, sacrificing loads of speed mid-corner, just not able to get on the line that they want to. So it's looking at the moment, Olivia, like they might have to come and have another go at it next week in the last chance qualifier.
Yeah, track temp inching up a little bit, but only by about 4 Fahrenheit, 2 Celsius. And I don't think that necessarily explains the rough line through turns 1 and 2 there.
We are running on a very
what lap 1 is
now.
39.8.
Yeah, it's tricky conditions out there right now. Very rubbing in track surface. As the track temperatures start to creep up again, it's gonna feel like ice behind the wheel of that car.
Just an up and down season, I think, is the way to describe it for Sophie. Just again, having some basically good qualifying, some with good finishes, but can't ever seem to put the two together. And this is a dire situation to have to really make moves on multiple fronts next week to make this happen.
I think this is just a testament as to how competitive this field has been all season, though, because Sophie Connell has been up there every single race in qualifying and in race trim, but just hasn't had the luck to be able to get the results that they deserve. And they're having the same situation here at IMS. They're just not getting the ideal track conditions they need to be able to bang in those lap times that we know that they can do. And they're unlucky enough to have to then be forced to have another go at it in the last chance qualifiers to make it in. It's just really a definition of their season, really.
Yeah, lap 2 was decently strong. The lap 3 is not too far off, but that lap 1 was basically impossible to recover from, and it's even 2 and 3 are just about half a tenth off what Lilac Zero was able to do. I think to be in this situation in itself is dire, but to have one of the championship contenders, one of really the most consistent drivers throughout the season, as the benchmark to try and beat, it's a very tough ask, and unfortunately Sophie Connell is not going to be able to overcome it here. Lap number 4 will be a 6.26, and that will be, I believe, 32nd right now. Just not quite enough. Sophie Connell.
Blake Henderson there is going to be your next driver out on track, currently sat behind the white line at pit lane exit. Of course, one of the drivers to put it in the barrier on pit lane exit at the start of his run, admitting that the nerves got to him a little bit and he carried a little bit too much speed through that exit. What do they call it? The pit exit road? It's pit exit road.
Yeah, the access road, maybe.
Yeah, he slows down massively this time just to make sure he makes it through cleanly. Been taking his time to get up to speed with these cars in recent weeks, but now's the time that he really needs to make it happen.
Again, best career finish in Champ Car came last week at Phoenix, but it was only a P10. Meanwhile, Lilac Zero was really dueling at the front of that race. It's a hell of a thing to overcome, but we know Blake Henderson lives for this single car qualifying. It's why he adopted it in HTL. It's such a thrilling format, and now he's got to feel the other side of it and really try and make everything happen.
And the thing is,
speed through turn 1 there.
But the thing is, we're feeling it, and the competitors are feeling it as well. Lilac Zero admitting that she feels more nervous for this than she has any other qualifying session in the entire championship. So there is an ounce of excitement to this sort of qualifying format because we can actually follow the session as it develops as well, rather than just sitting for 5 minutes and watching as the lap times come in and then waiting for the guys to go out at the end of the session. I think this is a better qualifying format.
I think it is, but also we have been here 3 hours now. I couldn't do this for every race. 39.565 for lap 1. It's about 700 off what Lilac was able to throw down. The track conditions, again, holding at 109 is a touch hotter than what Lilac had, but I think Lilac's run was just right on the limit of what she was doing as well, and it's very tough for any of these drivers to make a dent in it. And what could have been a very tense, nail-biting session, I think Lilac might have poured some water on it just by the strength of that initial run.
Yeah, Blake Henderson, it doesn't look like he's really pushing the limits of this car at all as he crosses to make a 5.79, which is again another lap time that's kind of comparable to Lilac's here, but still nearly 200 off on that second lap. But there was quite a big drop off between Lilac's second and third laps, and I'd say Henderson's been quite consistent over the first two. So he's looking to beat a 39.644 on this lap time, so it's whether or not his tyres have stayed in the window enough that he can make something happen. Questions about to be answered. Lap times Blake Henderson going to set on the third. It's a 7.04. No, it's not going to be enough to beat Lilac's here on this occasion. '25 is going to have a go at it next week.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure he'll be up for the challenge, but again, it's a question of that session is open to people who weren't able to make tonight. So how many of the 7 that miss out tonight will be there next week, and how many newcomers will show up to try and poach those spots away?
I think that's going to be a really interesting question because there's only going to be 3 more slots on the grid after tonight. So bump day before the race even begins, there's going to be so much excitement before we even kick off our 500-kilometer race at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. As Blake Henderson with 39.6 to close out his run and will not make it on this particular occasion.
Opted ahead of Sophie Connell, but it's in vain, unfortunately. Next up, I believe it will be Hunter Peach. And I believe it's just Peach and Pennell who are in the session. We're missing Parker Alexander and Tommy Withers. They've not made a return, and so will not threaten P30 tonight, but we could of course see them next week. I don't know, a little bit of a slow roll from Hunter Peach. Again, we saw a more dramatic version of this from Hamilton. But I think just take it nice and easy through exit. Not trying to put too much heat into the tires. Not really about the rolling, heat, but more about the scrub from the lateral loads. And Hunter
It's definitely
Peach.
something they're thinking about. It's not worth pushing so hard on that outlap if you can help it, because you're going to be scrubbing off speed in turns 3 and 4 anyway because of how quickly these cars accelerate. I think we're looking at 700 or so horsepower in qualifying training for these cars, I want to say.
Something around that number, yeah. I can't say it exactly, but
yeah, it
sounds about right.
Crazy. And with the lack of drag from how little aero these cars are carrying, you pick up speed and you're doing over 200 miles an hour way before you reach the end of that backstretch. As we stay on board then with Hunter Peach, 255 miles an hour at the apex of turn 2 isn't looking too quick at the moment, and probably isn't going to be enough to challenge Lilac's here with a 39.490 being his lap time target. Just the speeds and the revs just not quite feeling in the zone right now. Missing the apex at turn 4 quite a lot, compromising his run all the way down the start-finish straight. 231 miles an hour over the line. It's going to be a 5.62 to open. 700th off Lilac's first lap time with still 3 laps to go.
And I'm thinking more and more that Lilac is I'm sure Lilac's still biting the nails there, but it feels like it's almost an inevitability now. It feels like what Lilac has done is just about impressive enough to get herself into the field, and I know she will immediately start focus on just sort of cutting through slowly, and I know she's more than it's one of the things where she can fight through that field without, I think, too much trouble. I don't know if each with the 5.95 is again maybe gonna have to fight for the final row next week out, as we seem to just have Ryan Pennell after this able to run to try and knock Lilac Zero off 30th place.
Hunter Peach had some fantastic performances in Season 2 of the ABN Champ Car World Series, appearing on the podium more often than not. It's a very, very strong qualifier historically, but not quite showing those chops here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway this week. Struggling to make the show on this first attempt at qualifying, but of course he's going to have that second shot next week. But he's going to be disappointed with this result tonight if it stays as is.
Yeah, again, started from pole position back in 2022, 2 years ago. And it's just a fall from grace that I think it's you've got to feel for him. But again, still one more chance next Wednesday to fill 3 more grid slots, and with any luck we'll be able to see this number 6 car working his way through the field as well as we come out of turn 4 to complete the 4th and final lap. We'll get the average, but unfortunately I don't think it'll matter too much. The 39.665 will give us a 6.15 average. Beats Blake Henderson, but still below Alex Martin and Lilac Zero. Here we go, Ryan Pennell at the pit exit line. Parker Alexander and Tommy Withers not in the session. Not looking to contest this spot, so it's all down to the number 2 car. 21 career starts in Champ Car, best finish at Texas in Season 2. And
Start his engine. Difficult to leave his engine running. Just had to reset to the pits to get back to the starter motor that the pit crew have. Typically you would see a whole pit crew at the end of the pit lane with you, but of course that's not quite possible in iRacing. So reset to pit lane, get back to that starter motor, and then get rolling. The thing is, a couple of these guys will have chosen not to rock up to this last part of qualifying here, and I don't blame them. There's only 1 slot available, so there isn't really much point fighting for it when there's going to be 3 available next week. Got much more chance of getting in.
yeah, I think more than that, I think there's quite a few people who invalidated that, thought the chance was done, thought more people would set valid laps really, and quite head off to bed or to go do something else with their evening. But Ryan Pennell, the last one fighting here for this 30th spot before we move session and go into our pole shootout. Remember, top 9 still vying to set their positions, and Ryan Pennell with only 230 across the line. We've seen some drivers hit 232 across the Brits, and so maybe not to start the run he would have wanted.
Yeah, we're seeing that same cautious approach that he took in his first run, but bags of understeer coming through turn 2. Sounded like he had to get out the throttle a little bit there. So compromises his run all the way down this back straight and not really using much of the track, avoiding that wall entirely, and then just missing the apex at turn 3. Again, gets the car down nicely to the inside for 4, but just the revs dropping way too much to be competitive in this session, I think. 230 across the line and a 39.9 on the first lap. That's not going to be good enough to challenge for P30. Touch of oversteer through turn 1, exits the corner a lot lower than he may have otherwise liked. Runs nicely on the rubber end line through turn 2, but the pace just not quite there to make anything happen today. But of course, Ryan's going to have another shot to make it in next Wednesday, but for now, not looking likely.
Yeah, bit of a formality these last 3 laps. It looks like we have to run some superhuman pace to overhaul the nearly half a second lost on lap number 1. Coming across the stripe to finish lap number 2, and it's not to do more. It's going to open up the gap another 10th or 2. And Lilac's there. Breathe a sigh of relief now, it seems like, because you will be locked into the Arrowhead 500 and we'll start on the outside of row number 10. lap number 3 here. 39.741 for Ryan Pennell. Currently looking at the slowest of any of the second chance runners here. Blake Henderson's lap 3 was a 7:04 for comparison.
So good practice for Ryan Pennell though for next week. Should he choose to come and take part in that last chance qualifying session as he comes out of turn 4 to end his last qualifying run of the day. Cross line he comes at 39.802. Unfortunately going to end in a average of, as the computer calculates it, calculating.
Sorry, I'm juggling a lot of things, and it will be a 7:85.
39.785, 226.214 average, which is almost 2 miles an hour slower than your provisional pole time. David Kreutz, that was a session and a half.
Please help, it's 4 a.m.
I guess now
Very
we're moving on
tired.
to what's next, and that would be our pole shootout. Now, we have 16 minutes on the clock if you're looking down there. With that being said, do we have enough time to fill in, or are we going to find ourselves on a third session?
We're going to have to make a third session here.
Oh my goodness. We're going to go pretty long here, huh?
Yeah.
It appears quite a few drivers waiting for us in the interview room. Not quite sure if any of them are actually available for comment, but we got about 5 or 6 now standing right below us. So I wonder if we're going
To be fair, I've got a question or two for Hamilton. Do you mind if we pull him in first?
That'll be fine, yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, well,
Hamilton Akabuzi, this is Taylor in the ABN broadcast booth. Can you hear me?
Hello.
So that was one heck of a session, fluctuating track temperatures, and as much as maybe you didn't set the fastest qualifying time of the session, I think it's safe to say you set the most impressive lap time out there. You left nothing on the table, right down to the concrete in every corner, and right up to the barrier on the exit of every corner. How did you make that work in those track temps?
I mean, just a lot of, I mean, I've been practicing here a ton, and this is still colder than what we've been practicing for the real 500 by quite a bit. So it's not too difficult for me to get used to. And just a lot of laps here. But I mean, I was having a major battle with my internet for a while there, just trying to even get a run in. And then when I get in the car, the track temp, I'm like, all right, I can make it. And it shoots up 5 degrees or whatever it was. And I thought there was no chance I'd make the top 9 at that point, but I ended up holding on just enough to make it through. Yeah, I'm hoping we get started soon because like I got school in the morning. But yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was a very good lap for me. I only made like lap 3, I made 2 mistakes, but that was really it. Other than that, I like the whole run was really, really good.
Well, you've got a chance to see if you can stick it on pole with
looks like the session is up if you want to hop in now.
cool. with only 8 drivers to challenge you for it. Wish you the best of luck and thank you very much for taking the time to come and answer one question for us.
Thank you.
Next up, shall we talk to Lilac there? Who,
Yeah, let's go for it.
very tense moments there. Lilac, it's Olivia, you got a copy?
Hello.
Just describe what that felt like. I can't imagine it was particularly fun, but you did it. You locked
Everything,
in.
all of it, first round and the reruns.
Well, yeah, I was a little tense there for a bit. Wasn't even sure if we'd get to run again. So first of all, the first run, just sitting there watching the track temp waiting to go, trying to pick a good time to go. got in line when the temps were good, and by the time I got out there, it turned out the temps were bad. And that would have been fine. I still thought that I could at least complete the laps. But on my final lap, out of 4 or out of 2, it got a little sketchy in 2, and I was like, "Oh, creeping up towards the wall." And I lowered the weight jacker and went down into 3, and it just snapped on me. And I was talking to some of the other drivers, like, "What did I do wrong?" And they were like, helping me out. So I got a little clue of what not to do for the second run, and I think I also just lucked out with the track temps on that one, and the people who went after me had maybe higher temps slightly. But I just tried to hold it steady and not wiggle at all and not scrub any speed.
It was a very solid run. I mean, in that second attempt, no one really ever had the sign of being able to challenge that time. So sort of, I guess the commitment worked out for you there, and you will be starting from row number 10 next week. So how are you going to sort of approach that mentally now in the week leading up to the 500?
Well, it's going to be, not the ideal starting spot, but I've started at the back of Indy races before and just took my time and, avoid wrecks where possible. And sometimes you could get a pretty good finish from that. If you're at the back, you can try stuff on strategy, maybe pit when the leaders stay out and get a better fuel window, so you can experiment with strategy and stuff that way. So that's just what I'm gonna have to do, is just try to stay out of trouble and be there at the end.
Well, very best of luck to you, Lilac, and knowing you, I'm sure you have another race that you need to run and you've registered for. So
Well, I'll probably watch the broadcast for the top 9 to see who gets pulled, but yeah.
yeah. Well, we'll see you next week.
All right, thanks everyone.
And should we talk to Lily? Because Lily's gonna be first up here, being the driver with the 9th fastest time in round number 1. And good lord, it's as late as it is for us, so this might be the loopiest interview you've ever heard. Lily, this is Olivia from the ABN booth. You got a coffee?
Yes, I do.
Morning.
I have class in 4 hours.
Oh my god. I was asked, how are you coping with the time right now? Because I know I'm not coping that well.
I slept from like 7 till midnight, so I got some sort of chance.
I wish I'd done the same, but we were busy writing notes for this. So P9 in the first round 12, planning to be the first to run in the Fast 9 session. Just talk us through how it was, your experience in the session, sort of creeping lower and lower, and with Emma Kruger and Bruce Silver both just falling out by the tiniest of margins, less than 1/100th of a mile per hour. But your time just holding on to bring yourself into the Fast 9.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm actually really relieved. Actually, on my run, I made a stupid mistake with my adjustments. Forgot to change it back so I could corner into turn 3, and it just scrubbed massively, like all the way up to the turn 3 wall. Luckily, I didn't hit it, but I definitely thought like I'd really hurt my chances, and after such a good first lap, I'd thrown it all away. That obviously wasn't the case, and now we're in the Fast 9 somehow.
That's interesting to hear. So you have been making adjustments based on the straightaways and the corners, trying to sort of go in between 2 modes to try and get as much speed as possible out of the car.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you forget to do it, especially with how you want it on the straightaway, if you forget to do it into a corner, that wall comes up on you quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's about... Oh! They're going to be pulling you very soon, so I'll let you go and start preparing for your run, and good luck.
Merci.
And let's say one more. It's pulling Alex Miller, who managed to put that car top of the board in round 1, so he's going to be doing last in this session.
Alex Miller, this is Taylor in the ABN broadcast booth. Do you get a copy?
I do.
I've got to say, congratulations on that qualifying run. The conditions came to you at the perfect time, and you had a brilliant run to set a 228-mile-an-hour average. Not only the fastest run in the entire session, but the only driver to enter the 228-mile-an-hour average speed. How does that feel?
It's crazy because we spent that entire session kind of watching the weather, getting a bit nervous, and it just came to me. After a lot of testing runs that had a bit more fall off, I was not really expecting a run like that, but I just committed and nailed it.
So for the Fast 9, what's the plan? How are you approaching the session compared to round 1? Are you just going to go absolutely full send and finish either first or 9th, or are you going to kind of maybe take it a bit more careful and try and start in that middle part of the pack?
Well, the track temp is significantly lower than we had in the last session, so I'm probably just going to go for it and see what happens. No matter what, I'm starting in the top 9, which I would say is a success.
Yeah, they've got a lot of challenge in there, such as Hamilton Akabuzi and Josh Tucker. Some big names up there, so you've got to give it everything you've got to try and make something happen. But either way, how does the starting position affect your strategy for the race?
Probably not too much. I kind of have my strategy in mind, and I'm kind of just going to commit to it. But starting up front definitely is nicer without having to pass a bunch of cars throughout the race.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on a fantastic first qualifying run. Good luck in the second one, and we'll see you in the race next week.
Yeah, thank you.
And as we send off Alex Miller, Lily Pelletier Sharp hits the line and rounds turns 1 and 2 for the first run of the pole shootout. Looks pretty smooth so far, and again, temperature's a lot cooler. 87 Fahrenheit track temp. That is significantly down from what the previous session was at any point. And so 228 from Alex Miller being the top time, we could be seeing times go well above that. Yeah.
The only question in that one is going to be, how is the air temp looking? Because if both the track temp and the air temp are cold, may see similar. Oh no, Lily Pelletier Sharp bangs in a 39.335 to open her account in the top 9 shootout. That's the fastest single lap we've seen in qualifying all day.
I'm a little bit uncertain on the straight there, it seems like, but yeah, those are more akin to the times we saw in that ill-fated first session for all the chaos befell.
Yeah, the track temps are down at 30.6 for this one, so we're expecting another 39.3. Yet again, the track and the tyres giving plenty of grip to our drivers. 39.437, that little bit of a wiggle affecting Pelletier Sharp's run. Down that back straight, not able to reach those top speeds that she wanted, but she's playing with her tools all the time, trying to get as much speed out of the car as she can. As we mentioned earlier, changing that weight jacket to get that rear end squatted down, a little bit less drag on the rear wing and maximize that top end speed. Nice early turn in for turn 3. Those cold attempts really enabling that to let you take the shortest run through the corner possible. Same again for turn 4, hugging that inside line a lot longer than we saw in the previous qualifying session.
Yeah, and it looks like, obviously with these changes in conditions, you can tune the car to be a lot looser without it giving up on you, but we're seeing the car skew maybe a bit too much now. I'm wondering if that's bleeding off a little bit of speed. Like, even though it's holding, is it the most efficient way around those corners as you're getting right down below that white line on the apex?
Yeah, they talk about slip angle in single seaters all the time. They say the ideal is about a 5% slip angle, but Pelletier Sharp was a little bit over that in the last few corners. A noticeable step out of the rear end. It's just going to be increasing the mechanical drag on those rear tires, really affecting the speed through the corners. She finishes her run. 39.498 is the final lap, and the average comes out to a 39.433 and an average of 228.238 miles an hour. A whole quarter of a mile an hour faster than your previous fastest lap time from Alex Miller. So plenty of time to find in this session.
Next up, Hamilton, who
And it's
we're
cold.
expecting some great things from here.
We saw what he could do in the hotter track conditions, so I have no doubt he's going to be able to pull some out of the hat and put on an absolute masterclass for us here.
One thing I will note, much cooler, but also a bit of blustery wind here. 12 mile an hour blowing northwest. So a little bit where that might start to play a little bit of factor as well. You see again Hamilton rolling slowly out of pit lane a little bit quicker than last time. It was more like 75 on that first qualifying attempt, close to 92 here. And some connection issues clearly. Leading Hamilton once again. Is it a toll into the session, or is that going to be a... there we go, through turn 3. Now, question, not only will it stay in the session, but also iRacing can declare instant dropouts too extreme to give an accurate lap time, but for now, Hamilton did everything he can and just try to hope that the internet holds up for him, and again, so close to the wall out of turn 1 there. That's just incredible.
Yeah, again, it's that precision driving that Hamilton Akabuzi has been showing off all season, and he's putting it on display for us here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway and getting those arcs right on the limit of where he can get them as he time travels. Yet again, a little bit of smoke from an invisible car, but it looks like he nailed that line yet again, right up to that wall and hugs the wall, which is very dissimilar to what we've seen a lot of drivers do, where they've come away from the wall to try and avoid a little bit of extra drag, but flicks the car in perfectly. You could hear how high the revs of that engine went before turning. Maybe scraping the wall a little bit on exit. It's yet to be seen as we get to the end of the lap, but a 39.2 is his first flying lap.
A hiss of the wall, and iRacing sometimes lets those slide, and Hamilton will know at this point. He'll know if the 0x popped up, but we're left in the dark for now. A 2.70 on lap 1 is just incredible. But will it be in vain as he comes to take lap number 2?
Yes, it is.
It's validated.
That's the first big upset of qualifying, is the fact that Hamilton Akabuzi has invalidated his lap time. He will start 9th place in the Arrowhead 500 and not put it on pole position, I think, like a lot of us expected.
That first lap was a 2.29 average, but it's in vain, unfortunately. Just the tiniest of margins. We knew Hamilton would give every single inch possible, and just a tiny bit too far there this time.
Sawyer then will be the next car to take to the track with a 39.4 average to beat. Pelletier Sharp sitting on a 39.335 opening lap, which is the first thing we're going to be looking for here, but the first challenge of Sawyer's qualifying run is going to be getting those tyres in the winding.
I'm always wondering in these temps whether you're struggling a little bit for tyre temperature on that first lap. You see, I mean, we saw Hamilton off a little bit quicker than he did in the last one. Sawyer's going full send out of pit lane here to try to get temp into the tyres nice and evenly to set up that lap number 1. But anything you heat up here is going to follow you all the way through to the end of lap 4, and it could end up costing you a little more time through those final couple laps.
Yeah, getting temperature into the tyres isn't really much of a question. ILMS, with the really low banking and the really high speeds, you're putting so much energy into those tyres because they've got to do so much work to keep the cars glued to the track. They're heated up when as soon as you've gone through the first corner. A little bit of hesitation though on the apex of turn 3 for Tucker Sawyer, dropping that speed just below 228 miles an hour and then kind of losing that on the short shoot as well, and all the way out turn 4, almost into the barrier on exit. Doing that little coming down to the inside, but look at the speed as it builds. 234 miles an hour for the first time in the session. 234 miles an hour on the run down to turn 1 and carries 230 all the way to the exit.
Was about 4/10 off Pelletier Sharp's lap 1 with a 39.373 there, but with those speeds coming into lap number 2, looking to crank that up as we go through the remaining 3 laps. What does Tucker Sawyer have for the number 18 car right now?
Great speed carried through turn 2 and again maintained through turn 4, using all of the track on exit of that corner as the run continues down to the start finish line. It's good speed over the line again, and we see 234 on turn in for turn 1 once again, and it's a 39.465, which is slower than Pelletier Sharp yet again, and a big lift in the middle of turn 2. I think that's going to be Sawyer's run practically over.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen those sort of mistakes let people slot into, like, the teens in round number 1, but this is fast. This is the top 9. Like, everyone
Oh, he's
in
on the
this
concrete.
session.
Oh, that was almost into the barrier, just touching the concrete on the inside of turn 3 and got a bit of a tank slapper on and wiggled his way to the exit of that corner. Scrub run. He's going to have to just settle with what he's got here.
Yeah,
It's invalid
that's
as well. It's a
invalidated lap.
0x. Or a off track. That's our second invalidated lap in a row. Louis Pelletier Sharp survives on provisional pole position for another lap.
And we'll need confirmation from Commentator, but I believe that will mean that Sawyer lines up ahead of Hamilton because of the order they set their flaps in.
Yes. That is correct.
From round one qualifying.
It will go down to the qualifying results from round 1 as to who starts higher.
Okay.
This top 9 shootout already throwing up some surprises for us, and we're only 3 runs in.
Yeah.
Your next runner, though, is going to be Seth Wansing.
Seth Wansing sits in round number 1 with a 39.517 and a remarkably consistent run for number 24 car, losing less than a tenth across all 4 laps. We'll see if he can replicate that here, rolling nice and slowly out of pit lane here. Not trying to put too much into the tyres right now.
Yeah, taking notes from the likes of Hamilton Akabuzi just to bring the tyres in a little bit gentler, because as we mentioned earlier, you're scrubbing speed off through turn 3 and 4 anyway, so you don't need to go full push on pit exit if you can help it, which I think is one of the mistakes that I've personally made in qualifying runs, and I'm definitely going to carry this one into the 500 if I give it a go this year. But now Seth Wansing sounds like he's full throttle, setting up turn 3 nicely, just getting down to that white line, not pushing too hard at the moment, just keeping the energy out of that tyre if he can help it. But the low sun at the moment and the reflections on the track surface between 3 and 4 just making IMS look absolutely gorgeous as Seth Wansing comes around to start his first flying lap. 233 though is all he's going to achieve on turn in for turn 1. Not quite getting up to those 234 speeds we saw from the likes of Tucker Sawyer on the last run, maintaining good speed through turns 2. It looks like a bit of a more cautious run from Seth Wansing after seeing 2 cars invalidate their first runs, or their only runs.
I mean, it's a... Obviously, he knows that he's already ahead of them no matter what based on his round 1 times, but I guess it's betting on maybe more people pushing a bit too hard trying to go for that pole position. But in fact, smooth is fast.
Wow.
39.293, the only drive taking to 2s. The start is Hamilton, who invalidated on lap number 2.
Yeah, just not using any of the track on exit, but the track itself giving Seth Wansing plenty of grip to work with to set that first 0.2 of the session. You can see he's getting nowhere near any of these walls on entry or exit and leaving plenty of room for error. I think the only question then is, could we see someone who actually takes advantage of all the track steal away a result from Seth Wansing here as he comes over the start-finish line to set a 39.337. That's a whole tenth of a second faster than Pelletier Sharp.
Just got to complete the remaining 5 miles here, but it's looking very strong so far. And this is sort of pole run we were expecting in these conditions. It's just ultimate consistency. Only dropping about 400s between laps 1 and laps 2, and again, all the way down to the
Concrete?
nearly the concrete. Yeah, I'm wondering if it's partially with how cool the track is. Maybe he feels he doesn't need to run all the way out to the wall to arch the corner successfully, and
234.
throwing the shorter line a little bit. 39.387. Again, very strong lap number 3.
Yeah, it's finally figuring out how much speed it can carry through turns 3 and 4. Lots of support coming from the track surface because of how cold it is. We're a whole 18 degrees Celsius colder than we saw at the peak of the previous session. So plenty of support on that rear end. You can run the car really aggressive on the ARBs and the weight jacket if you fancy it. Seth Wansing, though, perhaps taking advantage of a much more stable car and running those slightly tighter, slightly shorter lines to bang in a 39.409 to finish. And that's going to be an average lap time of a 39.357 and a 228.679 average, which will put the 24 of Seth Wansing on provisional pole for the Arrowhead 500.
228.6 is, I mean, a speed we've not seen yet so far. And it's up to Tommy Reynolds next in the number 11 car to try and answer back for that. Tommy Reynolds, of course, for Beatron Racing, Chicago native. Hasn't really showed anything. I mean, hasn't really shown much in Champ Car recently, but showed very good pace when he was in this series back in 2022 and looking to pick up right where he left off.
Yep, speeds we're seeing at the moment a whole mile an hour faster on average than what Tommy Reynolds set in round 1 of qualifying. So he's got a big set of lap times to step up to here. He's got to find, as I say, a whole 1 mile an hour here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which isn't easy to do. This is a very difficult track with really low banking and it takes so much commitment. But even saying that, Seth Wansing showing us it doesn't take too much commitment, it just takes keeping it clean. So, question is, what sort of approach are we going to see from the 11 of Tommy Reynolds? Are we going to see full commitment all the way, or are we going to see something a little bit more conservative like we saw out of the 24 crew?
We've already seen something a little bit interesting, which is that very slow approach on the access road through 1 and 2. Again, drivers taking notes from Hamilton during his qualifying run in round 1 at least, and looking to manage attempts as much as possible on the tyres, just dipping down to the white line, and again about half a car length off the wall on the exit of 1, and a little bit closer down in turn 2. Maybe just feeling his way into the run again. Aside from a couple minutes of practice at the start of this session, this is the first chance these drivers get to get a feel for the track for all of them. And so you've got to be able to jump in as quickly as possible, but it's a skill that's hard to learn.
Well, Tommy Reynolds is going to know if he's on pace to try and snatch that pole position from Seth Wansing. His first lap is going to be a 39.287. That is almost 100th of a second faster than Seth Wansing on a very similar approach. That slightly tighter exit and that slightly shorter line through 2 really paying off at the moment, but now he's got to keep that commitment up for the rest of the run and hope he hasn't used too much of that tyre.
I think at this point you can't really worry yourself about that. You've got to be full focus on each and every apex, and just hope that the prep you did at the start of the run was enough, and hope that your adjustments and your methodology has carried you this far. You hope it carries you even further. 3-2-3 again, just chipping away 1,000 by 1,000 at Seth Wansing's times.
Liv, you've done plenty of qualifying runs here. So what's Tommy Reynolds doing in that cockpit at the moment?
Just you want to find your marks basically. That's the most important thing. You've got to be locked in. Find your turning point. As soon as you get past that, find your apex point. As soon as you find that, find your exit point. Don't let anything distract you, and just try and be as smooth as possible, and let the wheel guide you. You can't wrench the car around. You've got to listen to what the force feedback's telling you, and just trust it as much as possible, as that is a sharp drop off for lap 3. 39.422 needs to gain to get a chance at Seth Wansing, but might be able to slot in front of Lily Pelletier Sharp for provisional second place, and with only 4 cars left to go after this, might have a good shot at the front row.
2 more corners to go then for Tommy Reynolds. 232 topping out on turn in for turn 3 this time. Good car placement. It looks like he may be getting the run that he needs, but just a touch wide at the apex of 4, but still carries good speed on exit. One final run down to the start-finish line. Is it going to be pole position provisionally? I don't think it is, Olivia.
Not quite. 6,000 slower per lap.
Even with that fantastic opening and second lap, just the drop off on lap 3 and 4, maybe getting a little bit nervous at perhaps having a shot at the pole position, just losing focus a touch is what cost Tommy there, but a really solid effort to slot in P2, and it's still the provisional front row.
Next up, Martin Robert, who admitted in the chat here that did not expect to be in this sort of situation and is really just kind of flying by the wind at this point, just try to get as much he can out of it. But if you can get into the fast 9, I mean, a valid lap here or any lap is gonna put you at worst 7th for the start, and chipping past Lily will guarantee a top 2 rows for next week's race.
It's something the 41's going to be thinking about in that cockpit, because as you said, he admitted that he doesn't have or shouldn't have the pace to be in this top 9 shootout. So again, he's not got much to lose. So does he just go full send and get as much time out of it as he can, or do we think he's going to see that more measured approach we've seen from the last 2 completed runs that we've seen? Martin Roberg swinging over towards the inside of pit lane, crosses the line at 232 miles an hour to start his lap. Quite a shallow entry for turn 1. I can imagine that's going to cost him on the exit, and it does. Those revs dropping a touch lower than we heard from Seth Wansing and Tommy Reynolds. That same tight exit that Reynolds took from turn 2. So Roberg perhaps taking notes there. And another really shallow entry for turn 3. Roberg looking like he really prefers those tighter lines through the corners and trying to use the track grip that's there at the moment. Some good speed then out of turn 4. Sorry, Olivia.
I think whatever approach you had in your first run, you can't change it now. As 39.283, the fastest we've seen of any valid run so far.
4 thousandths of a second though over Tommy Reynolds' fastest lap over 2:87 on that first run. It was that third lap that really let Tommy Reynolds down. So Martin Roberg just needs to be able to hold on through all 4 of these laps, and again it looks like he's on pace to have a decent shot at taking that pole position from the number 24 car. But he's still got a very long way to go as he touches the concrete on the inside of 3. Manages to keep a hold of it and keep his foot in it. This lap's still looking quick, but he's still staring down a 3:37 to try and beat as he comes down to the line once again. 3:01. So it is going to beat that time by 37 thousandths of a second. And this is where Tommy Reynolds slipped up on his potential pole position lap. Seth Wansing was sat on a 39.387 on his third lap, so that's what Roberg is trying to beat on this particular instance, right down to that concrete yet again. He's been making use of all the space under that white line to get these lap times in, so perhaps that's going to be the difference maker between Roberg and Seth Wansing.
.386, it's still 1,000th faster than Seth Wansing's lap 3. It's a sharp drop off, but just 2.5 miles to go between Martin Roberg and potentially provisional pole for the Arrowhead 500. I think we've got to admit he's got to admit now he belongs in this session.
I don't like the rev drop off he had on the exit of turn 2 though. That exit felt a little bit tighter than it perhaps needed to be, and he didn't carry the speed into turn 3 that he has done on these last few laps, but his placement through these last 2 corners looks like it's been pretty neat and tidy. And he's maintained those revs on the exit of 4 and on the run all the way down to the start finish line. So what's that final lap time going to be? It's a 4:68. Is it going to be enough? Oh, just like that. It's 0.03 of a second off on average. Those first 3 laps all faster, but Seth Wansing's final lap proving unbeatable right now. So even if these guys have gone faster on the first 3 laps, it's not enough.
Yeah, Seth Wansing had a fantastic lap 4, 39.409. And it's just a difference of 0.03 of a mile an hour separating our entire front row right now. And the 34 Bobby Blowers looking to try and make a statement and perhaps slot himself into that margin. The weather has remained remarkably stable for this session, track temp 86, 87 Fahrenheit throughout, and the wind not varying too much.
Yeah, the one person that's going to be praying that the conditions stay stable for the rest of the session is the driver that's going last. Alex Miller still sat waiting in pit lane for his turn. He's going to sit and watch as Bobby Blowers in the 34 and Josh Tucker in the 44 both go out on track in front of him and lay down their qualifying times. Bobby Blowers then knows exactly what he needs to do to usurp Seth Wansing at the top of the timing sheets. Can the 34 driver do it? Well, we're going to know in about 3 minutes' time. Oh, Olivia, the track temperature's actually dropped. 29.4 I'm getting.
Oh, 232 at the stripe. And yeah, 85 Fahrenheit. It's a tiny difference, but we'll see if it continues as Bobby Plow so close to the wall on the exit of turn 1 there. We know what the 34 is shooting for here.
Yeah, so much confidence in that IR18. Really good little bit of driving from Bobby Blowers through turns 1 and 2 and getting that slightly tighter exit off 2 that we've seen. Quite indicative of the session so far, but again, just that little bit more grip in the track surface available for car 34, thanks to the little bit of cloud cover we've just seen creep in as he comes across the line. What's his first lap time going to be? Oh, it's a 393. That's a full 10th of a second slower.
The aggression just wasn't fast, it seems like.
But that's the thing, we've seen how that doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to miss out on pole position. If he can get these next 3 lap times within a threshold of that 393, he could still be challenging for pole position. It's all going to come down to how he handles the 4 corners that he's about to complete. And we're going to get an idea as to whereabouts he's going to stack up after this particular lap. Your current pole position average on lap 2, or the lap on lap 2 was a 39.337. Does he beat that? No, he does not. A 39.390. It's an improvement over lap 1. So a good little bit of consistency from Bobby Blowers, but now he needs to maintain that for the next 2 laps. Seth Wansing's lap 3 was almost identical to the lap time that Bobby Blowers just set. And then it was the 4th lap where that really started to drop off. So if Bobby Blowers can set another 39.39 on this lap, then I think he's still in with an outside shot, Olivia.
It's tough. I mean, the average from Seth was a .357. I think Bobby's got a great shot at P4 here, slotting ahead of Pellet's Sharp, just to the sheer consistency. But we got about 2 miles left to go to find out. 4:13 for lap number 3.
Yeah, 200 drop off.
Pellet's Sharp dropped off by nearly 2/10. Again, Bobby Blowers just 200 so far.
We really are seeing the best that these drivers have to offer. Bobby Blowers the most consistent driver so far, and it's all going to come down to this final lap to decide whether or not he's slots in between... Oh, well, no, he's guaranteed to slot in with Willie Pelletier Sharp at this rate. And that should be a P4 for car 34.
That's a typo, hang on. 4:21, it's ahead of Willie Pelletier Sharp by 12 thousandths of a second.
Really, really solid run from Bobby Blowers. Just kind of let down by those first couple of laps. But a really impressive bit of consistency, and we've got to give him some credit for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And lap 4 falling off, we see that from everyone. It's really impressive to have that tight of a cluster between laps 1 to 3. And now just 2 cars left to decide who's going to start on pole position. Seth Wansing now already guaranteed a front row start for the Arrowhead 500. It's a question of which lane Josh Tucker wants to push him out to the right a little bit and take that pole position for himself. Car number 44 set the second fastest time in round number 1 with 39.490.
Yeah, it's a very tricky track temperatures as well. It was only when Alex Miller went out on track that those conditions were lower, but I don't think we've seen just how fast Josh Tucker can go. And he's had, as much as he went for second fastest, it was a relatively understated qualifying run from him, and he's really going to put it all out on the table now.
Yeah, the Indy Alliance Racing driver. I mean, it's in the name. They must love this place. And
these guys in I5G, those are your absolute stalwarts of Champ Car racing.
And we saw how fast Hamilton was, just a little too much on the table. Josh Tucker not looking to be any less aggressive, but just hoping to keep it that inch further inside, I think.
The one thing that I've noticed Josh Tucker's doing already compared to everyone else, besides the much wider exits from the corners, he's holding it on the inside of the corners a lot longer than everyone else did. Just it feels like that beat or two longer, just maintaining that slightly shorter line is getting him the run that he needs out of corner exit. Look at the speed already, 233 over the stripe. It's going to be 234 easy by the time he gets to turn 1.
39.240, that is 300ths faster than even Hamilton. That is about half a tenth better than anyone else so far this session. And made it through that lap 2, turn 2 without finding the wall. I think that's where Hamilton invalidated his lap, unless it was a bit of an internet issue. I need to find confirmation on that. But there was definitely the slightest bit of contact for Hamilton, which Josh Tucker has avoided successfully.
For now,
that was very close.
Yes, very
halfway
close
through the run.
wall. Yeah, again, a very impressive run from Josh Tucker so far. That car is just not moving. It is on rails until he turns it into the corner. And then it just goes exactly where he looks like he wants it to go. And then ends up on corner exit exactly where he looks like he's trying to place it. He's got such a good understanding of the Dallara IR18 and exactly what he needs to do in these sorts of track conditions to get the most out of it. A 3:23 is his second lap time, and that's over 100th faster than current pole sitter Seth Wansing on that second lap. But is being very much bolstered by that first run at 500th faster than your current pole sitter. Ooh, could that be a contact 0x? It is. This is another massive upset in the middle of the qualifying session. Josh Tucker invalidates his lap time.
And now we have just one car left to go to try and displace Seth Wansing from pole position. The 49 of Alex Miller put it top of the charts in round number 1. And is going to have to try and fight her to retain that. It's already guaranteed a place on the front 2 rows after the 3 invalidations we've seen in round number 2. But he's going to have to beat 228.679 miles an hour average over 10 miles to take on pole position for the Arrowhead 500.
What must he be feeling in that cockpit right now? Only 5 drivers have set a valid run in this qualifying session, and Alex Miller only has 1 shot to make it 6. He's got to make a judgment call here. Does he keep it clean and maybe start 6th? Or does he go all out and maybe even pick that contact 0x? Does he have a shot at pole? Does he think he does? And is he going to push for it?
I think he does win for the fences, but 229 across the line is not great. He didn't get the run through the outlap that he wanted. He's committed pretty fully now. Not quite down to the white line. I just don't know if he's got the outright pace in the car that we've seen from our current front row. Again, they are separated by 0.06 of a second average. So across a 4-lap run, that is just a difference of, what, 0.2?
Yeah.
Sorry, 200ths over 10 miles.
It's absolutely nothing between the drivers at the top at the moment, but Alex Miller perhaps taking a different strategy. 3:62 is the first lap. It's not looking good enough for pole position at the moment, but he is going to be threatening Bobby Blowers for the pole position of that second row of the grid. But maybe his line just keeping some tyre temp out of the tyres, like we discussed earlier in the session, could give him a banger next 3 laps. It's going to come down right to that consistency.
I do spy in the Arrowhead Racing channel, Seth Wansing and Tommy Reynolds sat together with Carmen Sienna, and I'm sure Carmen piping all this information through, letting them know their chances of having a double front row start here. Because I believe not Arrowhead Racing drivers, but good friends of Carmen through HGL, and so I know Carmen's taking a couple of guys under the wing to just try and get them used to this car. It is a fantastic machine. And I think Carmen knows that more than any of us, and really wants everyone else to embrace it as well.
Yeah, Alex Miller then doing everything he can, leaving almost nothing on the table. It's looking like he's going to be able to challenge Bobby Blowers for P4 on the grid at the moment, but he's still got one more lap to go here as the final qualifier.
3.8 sits, so consistent, and it
Really
looks
good
like
consistency.
I don't know if it's enough challenge for the front row, but Bobby Blau is under immense threat here. But lap 4, again, we saw a big fall off for Bobby as well. Maybe Alex Miller doesn't quite have it in the car, but as Wednesday turns to Thursday on the east coast of America, good lord, we are up too late in the UK. Alex Miller rounds turn 3 for the final time. The final corner of the Arrowhead 500 qualifying, at least this week. And Alex Miller, with the run to the line in the middle of the track, will it be enough to take pole? Probably not. Will it be enough to take 4th place? Yes, it will. A 39.386, a 228.5 average will put him 4th position for next week's Arrowhead 500, but it will be Seth Wansing taking pole position with Martin Roberg and Tommy Reynolds rounding out your front row for next week's Arrowhead 500.
Yeah, what a fantastic run from Seth Wansing, doing just about everything he needed to get that pole position. Roberg and Tommy Reynolds, who joined him on the front row, both setting faster first and second laps, and third laps in Roberg's case, but just not able to hold on in that final lap. It'll be interesting to try and talk to Seth to find out exactly what went into making that lap time happen and how it felt as the 41 and the 11th lap times came in. But what a bit of driving from Wansing.
You know, it's just again, so someone who looked fairly it's sometimes you get the ones that don't look particularly quick, but it's just the smoothness carries the speed that you can't quite see. That sort of 10th of a mile an hour in the middle of the corner, it's very impressive, and hopefully we get a chance to talk to some of these drivers who round out the front row for next week. We'll try and make it brief. I think everyone needs the better at this point, but I'd love to hear from Seth, especially. And I guess Seth and Tommy were both sat in the same voice call with those nerves of watching the rest of the laps. I mean, they set their laps quite early in the session, and just no one could seem to clear it.
Yeah, no, I was honestly a little bit surprised. A little bit surprised that Roberg and Reynolds, one of those two, didn't take pole position, and I think it just goes to show how important that consistency is to get pole position here at Indianapolis. It's a very unique qualifying format, one that isn't really done anywhere else in motorsport, and it's always a show when it happens in real life. It's one of the best days of motorsport in the entire year, because the amount of skill and talent and practice and trust that it takes to string those 4 laps together at over 220 odd miles an hour without touching a wall, without losing the back end, without touching concrete. It takes a level of insanity. It genuinely takes a level of insanity.
Yeah. I'm wondering if we should maybe drag in Seth and Tommy at the same time. Just get an idea of what they've been talking about in that voice call, because I'm dying to know. Seth, Tommy, this is Olivia from the ABN booth. You got a copy?
Gotcha. I gotcha.
Thanks.
We saw you two sitting with Carmen during that pole qualifying run. Just, I guess, biting your nails. You set your laps quite early and had to wait for everyone else to go. And I think, especially with Josh Cutter setting such a fast lap 1, we were all expecting maybe him to poach pole, but just mistake after mistake seemed to roll in from the field, and 2 front row starts and Seth a pole position for the Arrowhead 500. Talk us through your lap and just the nerves of watching everyone else go afterwards.
I know for me, it was really nerve-wracking. I didn't. It sucks for Hamilton. He looked like he had a good lap 2 and 3 going, and I thought that once I heard the average, I told Carmen, I was like, that I think my average was like 22, 228, 6 something like that. And I was like, I thought I was going to need to be around a 7 or an 8 to even have a shot. So apparently my laps 3 and 4 were really good, and the car didn't fall off as much as I thought. But it was, I was sitting there doing the gotta go to the bathroom dance, just wiggling my legs around, hoping hoping I got lucky, and thankfully had some good challenges there. I thought Josh was going to get it there. I thought Martin had a shot too, but it was going to be close with Josh. I believe Josh was the one that hit the wall because I think he matched my. He fell off big on lap 2 and was tracking to be around me on lap 3. So it would have been really close, but nonetheless, it's amazing feeling.
Tommy, we were watching your lap times roll in, and you were faster than Seth in the first and the second. Yeah, the first and the second laps, but then you had that drop off that came in on lap 3 and 4. What happened there? Was it just was it the car? Was it a change of conditions? Like, what were you feeling in the cockpit?
I really wish I could tell you. I think it was a change in conditions, but that's obviously putting the blame on somebody else but the driver, which I hate to do. So I would say it's my fault. I obviously did something wrong there, but I'm not sure what. But yeah, the first 2 laps felt good. I kept looking down at the speed, and I saw 234 both times going into 1. The first lap I saw 233 going into 2 or into 3. So I was like, okay, maybe it'll be good. And then the third lap I saw 231 going into 3. So I didn't really know what happened. Maybe poor exit out of 2, something happened. But yeah.
I was gonna say that when that 234 speed popped up, it was it was awesome, and it was an awesome little string of laps that you pulled together there. But for both of you, starting with Seth, how does your qualifying position affect how you approach the race next week?
Not really any different. Just a little bit more nervous rolling off the grid. It'll be cool, and it changes how I'll drive up front. I honestly like to be in the top 10 shooting for the lead. I like to be on the aggressive, and I'm still getting used to these Indy cars. I usually drive them 5 to 10 times a year and run with. I've only had a couple starts in ABN Champ Car total throughout the years, but I love it when I drive. But so it'll change how aggressive I am on the start, and how I drive up towards the front. But then I'll have to learn how to play defense and lead a pack and all that good stuff. So I got some really smart people that can help me with that, and Carmen's been a big help, and Tommy was a big help tonight, and so I have people to lean on, and that's always a good thing. But I'm typically pretty aggressive, but nothing dirty aggressive, but on keeping track position and just getting after it. So, and I'll have to learn how to manage tire, and just because the clean air feels good on the car and it's working good doesn't mean I'm not shredding off tire. So I'll just really have to learn the car up front at Indianapolis, to be frank with you, to sum it up. So should be fun.
Yeah, you're setting up a banger of a race for us. We're looking forward to it. And Tommy, same question.
I mean, kind of gone through this too many times. I feel like getting into the head game for the race, and you think this is gonna happen, whatever. You don't know what's gonna happen. So, best case scenario, I survive to lap 100, and we're somehow there and a chance to win it. So, obviously, just executing well on pit stops and whatnot. So, hopefully, I mean, the front row is where I really wanted to be. I feel like if I'm inside that top 3, especially on the start, I feel like I can make some like magic happen for the day. Like I feel like it can stay up there. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Fuel saving is going to be a big factor and whatnot. So that's my biggest, like, I guess, headspace going into it is just trying to learn how to save fuel again since I've been away from these cars for such a long time.
Well, as I say, we're really looking forward to seeing the product that you guys put on show for us next week. Congratulations on the front row start, Tommy. Congratulations on the pole position, Seth.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you guys for the coverage all night. It was fantastic.
We got some time for shout outs, I think. First of all, you, Seth, anyone want to shout out and say thanks? I know you already covered a fair few people in the interview.
Yeah, Carmen and Tommy for the help today. You know, I want to thank my girlfriend Savannah. She sat by me and kind of gave me the support and kind of hung in there and was my buddy next to me and my support system right there. So got to thank her. She's watching. Love you. Family, friends at home. Midwest Barbecue. Carmen for the paint. And Henderson Graphics is another sponsor of mine. And hopefully Blake can get into the show next week. And then just want to thank everybody at home too for tuning in and watching. And hopefully we'll put on a hell of a show next week. And hello to all my friends back in ARCS too that are watching. So. Should be a fun one. And again, thank you to you guys and everybody at ABN for putting on the broadcast tonight. I know it's a haul, and we can't wait to go back and watch it.
And Tommy?
Thanks to Carmen for getting me in here last minute. She also did my paint, so thank you for that. But besides that, I don't got anybody else.
Well, thank you both for joining us, and good luck next week.
Thank you.
Yes, guys.
Thank you, guys.
So do we get Martin in for a quick chat?
Absolutely.
Our second place. Not pole sitter.
Front row
Martin,
starter.
hello. Welcome to
Hey.
the ABN broadcast booth. That's going to be a P2 on the grid for the 500 next week.
Yeah. That I have no idea how that happened. Like, I'm going to be completely honest. I haven't done a lap here in Viscombo since like 2020. I just wanted to make the race.
And even then, it was an impressive bit of driving to go faster than Seth Wansing on all three of your first laps. But then you had that drop off come in on lap 4. I asked a similar question to Tommy. Was it a mistake, a change in conditions? Like, what happened there?
Oh, it was a big mistake on my end. I believe I turned in too early into turn 2. I don't remember what exactly I did in turn 2, but I also screwed up 3 and 4 just because I kind of mentally broke at that point. Because I didn't realize I was close to the pole at that point. I thought I had just knocked myself back to like 5th or 6th. But yeah, the first 3 laps felt really good, and then the 4th lap I just had that little lapse, and it was unfortunately just enough to lose pole.
That's fair enough. It was really tricky conditions out there in both qualifying sessions, I think. Olivia, do you have any questions?
Yeah, of course. Just it is a front row start for the 500 yet. Sort of see daylight in front of you as the pace car pulls off. How does that affect how you approach next week's race? Do you plan for anything different, or just take it as it comes?
Well, now I actually need to start planning. I honestly, like I said, I just wanted to make the race tonight. I did not envision it going this well, so definitely is going to factor into my plan because I have the track position, so I'm going to want to keep it. I don't want to wreck myself, but since I already have it, I'm probably not going to just completely ride like I normally would. So I think it's going to make me be a little more aggressive, but just like it's very nice to be able to not be in the pack at the beginning of this race. Takes off a lot of stress.
I think we'll give you the same opportunity we gave to Tommy and Seth. If there's anyone you want to give a shout out to, feel free.
So this is actually going to be a bit of a different shout out than normal. Just like I mentioned the nature of my paint scheme in the Discord earlier. I just wanted to take this opportunity to say to anyone that is struggling with any mental health disorder or has attempted in the past, knows someone who has attempted, that it truly does get better, and there are a lot of people that are there for you. And I just want to take this opportunity to recognize everyone that continues fighting, because it's truly a lot, and they don't really get recognized enough. And I'm really lucky to have come out the other side, and I'm now able to be the one that can get these people struggling every day just the smallest bit of recognition. Like, I don't know how much this will do for anybody listening, but I hope it does reach someone.
Thank you for saying that, Martin. That's it's a really important message that I think resonates a lot with everyone in the broadcast booth and the wider ABN community, and the world is a better place for you being here.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Just, yeah, that message goes out to everyone, like every individual person listening to this, watching this, that took any time out of their day to be part of this session. Like, it made a positive impact for me, because and if that's the positive impact you need to make today, that there it is. Like, I think it's just nice sometimes to let people just recognize those struggling, because I don't think they, like, I know firsthand, you just don't know the positive impact you're having. And I'm really glad I have this opportunity to have the message on my car.
We're looking forward to seeing it on the car, starting from the middle of the front row next week at the Arrowhead 500. Congratulations once again on a fantastic performance today, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, thank you very much. I hope to be back in the booth one spot better next week.
We look forward to seeing it. Cheers, Martin.
Yeah, have a good night.
You too. In all of that excitement, we completely glossed over the fact that one of our championship contenders hasn't even turned up tonight. Austin Farr was nuts in qualifying for the Arrowhead 500.
Yeah, I hadn't even.
There
Yeah, so much was happening.
so
I
much
didn't
going
even
on.
notice.
So I guess the question now is, how does that affect the likes of Emily Howe and Lilac Zier going into the event? Because Lilac's very out of position for this race to what we'd expect. And Emily's pretty much got a clear, well, not a clear run to the front of the field, but yeah, no, she's got a lot of cars between her and the front of the field.
Emily is literally
In a
in the
tricky spot.
very center of the pack. Rose sits in the middle, like, got a lot of cars to clear, and
She's going to have as equal a chance at this as Lilac Zier. So
does have a 30-point advantage, of course.
but anything can happen. It's the Arrowhead 500.
Yeah, and of course, you never know. We could see Austin Farr show up next week and throw down a time to start right behind Lilac and see what we can do from there.
It's going to be go on.
I'm pretty sure slots are still open for anyone who couldn't make it today. I think he was checked in as well.
There are definitely something to keep an eye on then, and something we'll try to dig into in the next week to find out what's going on there and see if we can get any insight on whether or not he will be turning up for the Arrowhead 500, because that would certainly throw a bit of a spanner into the works for the heck of a broadcast. It was so much fun to see such a unique qualifying format brought to iRacing and brought to ABN that we were able to sit and participate in and watch and experience for the first time alongside our drivers for the Arrowhead 500. So, David, Olivia, what were your biggest takeaways from that session?
I mean, it's just. I think we saw a lot of drivers who weren't expecting to see at the front of the field. Again, it's a couple of drivers you expect to take pole position, maybe just giving it 101% and overstepping the mark slightly with Hamilton and Tucker, and it opened up. So Josh Tucker, that is, and it just opened up the door for some unexpected faces to take those front spots they did. I mean, Seth Wansley might Robert Tom Reynolds, but Alex Miller lining up fourth. I think he won't be mad at me for saying that. I don't think either of us expected that to be the case coming into tonight, and I'm sure he'd be delighted to be running from the inside of second row next week. And so yeah, I think that the conditions maybe played a little bit of factor, but also I think we just saw a lot of people bring out a qualifying time that we wouldn't expect from them, and really show that skill. So it's been to see how that translates to race pace. Of course, a 10-mile run is a good test of endurance, but it's nothing compared to 500 kilometers around the Brickyard in traffic. So I expect we'll see a lot of moving and shaking still, especially from people like Lyle, let's say, who have a lot of ground to make up to try and keep her championship hopes alive. And also, of course, Hamilton, Josh Tucker, anyone else who has ambitions of winning this race who didn't quite have the qualifying they wanted to try and cut through that field and maybe make some moves on strategy.
No, absolutely. I think Indianapolis brings the best out of everyone. But David, you got to have a bit of more observational role for this session. So was there anything that you noticed that perhaps Olivia and I missed?
Track conditions are going to play a huge deal in all of this race. Some drivers got the advantage, getting better track conditions for faster laps, others of which had to deal with a little bit more of that sunshine, a little bit more of the increased track temperatures, and you see the huge fluctuations in how these cars perform, even in a single car environment. Adding that, of course, to the different configurations in terms of the fuel settings, alongside tire wear and a bigger pack, it's going to become even much more noticeable. We had quite a few drivers even struggle to make it out of pit road today, which goes to show if you're not set up completely for what you expect, there's a high probability of failure, something we might have not even accounted for. And even then, some of those drivers got a chance to get back inside of the top 30 before we move on to our last chance qualifier. Nerves are going to be high as well. If you thought the nerves were high for this event, I can only imagine the last chance qualifier might give us a few nasty incidents. And looking at the way people were, of course, using this track from top to bottom, taking those risks, maybe we're going to be in for a very exciting final chance to get through before moving on to the main feature in just a week's time. Now, for those of you still watching with us right now, Indianapolis will be the place to be on Wednesday nights one more week, and we can't wait to bring you back there, of course, to wrap it all off for Season 5 of the Champ Car World Series. Thank you for watching coverage of the Arrowhead 500 qualifying session. If you enjoyed, make sure to follow the ABN Esports Twitch and check us out on all our social medias. We'd love to have you tune in for the big event. More information will be posted all throughout the week, and the video on demand coverage of this race will be available within the next 2 days. I've been David Kreutz, today joined alongside Olivia Hayward and Taylor Mills, bringing you the bulk of tonight's coverage, and we are very excited to return in a week's time to show you everything that goes down at the Yard of Bricks. Thank you for watching all of tonight's coverage here exclusively on ABN, and we hope you have a fantastic night.